welcome to the 400th episode of the Random Podcast from Heck. My name is Tony, and this is the podcast about random things in the world of entertainment, which includes movies, TV shows, and comic books. As always, big thanks to Andrew Loken. He is a super duper awesome supporter. He's been a supporter, I feel like almost since the beginning. He's been around forever. He's my hero. You can be a supporter by going to patreon.com/gmanfromheck. Any amount you commit to will be awesome. If you commit to Rick Jones tier or higher, you get access to the secret podcast from Heck, which is it's extra podcast if this isn't enough for you. And I tend to often talk about like classic comic books, kind of do like, just like what happened and just like cool classic comics. I've been doing the John Byrne Fantastic Four from the 80s just because I love those. I am open to suggestions. I sometimes do off my mind just comic book topics or just random topics, anything just extra to dive in outside of the current events that we normally do in this podcast. And like I said, I'm open to suggestion. Anything that you want to hear from. If you want to hear, I'm assuming you want to hear from me. That's why you're here, which thank you. So I'm open to that. But if you can't commit to a monthly commitment, you can also help out by going to coffee.com/gmanfromheck, and you can buy me a virtual cup of coffee or 3. And that's ko-fi.com/gmanfromheck. I think I said that right. And also like the extra, like the Off My Mind extra podcasts are available for purchase on Patreon. Just go to patreon.com/gmanfromheck. Go to the shop tab. Don't use the iOS. Well, you can use the iOS app, but they charge 30% more. So I'm assuming if you go on a desktop, you can purchase it there, et cetera, et cetera. All right, so 400 episodes. And as I've been saying, I don't have anything like out of the ordinary special planned. And I don't know how you what's the deal? What's a common thing? Do we make a big deal? It's 400 episodes, 400 weeks in a row. I have not missed a week, so I'm that's like a personal thing for me. I'm assuming you appreciate that as well. I just want to make sure that I give you a podcast every single week. And then when it comes to like celebrating, do we go by like multiples of 12 because we're saying how many years, or do we do like the whatever centennial, 150? I don't even know, but. Thank you for being here. Whether you've been here for all 400 episodes or 4 episodes, or if this is your first episode, I appreciate you being here. So please listen, continue, download episodes. And I haven't said it in a while, but whatever you listen to, if there's ways to rate the podcast, if you're enjoying it, whether it's on Spotify or if you watch on YouTube, YouTube's been like a recent thing, and that's weird because those numbers don't, they don't register in my regular numbers. And, of course I love the numbers, but, and if you watch on YouTube, give it the thumbs up, or the like or whatever. And if you listen on Spotify or Prime Music or whatever you listen to, all that stuff I'm sure helps. So thank you for all that. Now, the only thing slightly different than to celebrate this, we're going to do 2 movies, two theatrical movies in 1 week. So I guess the main one is going to be Until Dawn, because that's the newer movie that just came out this past week. So that is based on the video game, which I have played a bit of that. I never finished it because I never finish anything anymore because it was video games. I just don't have time. And that is one in particular that I was like, I should go back, like whether I probably at this point, I'd have to restart it and just get through it, because I was always fascinated with the idea of the game. And partially it was because of, Brett Dalton voicing, one of the characters and that, but it's a matter of time. So who knows, maybe someday I will. The second movie feature is The Amateur with Rami Malek and Laurence Fishburne. I had mentioned that I wasn't really sure if I was going to see it. I was interested, I was curious, but then it turned out my wife and sister-in-law, they were going to go see a movie, and they're like, "You want to go?" And I'm like, "Me, you go to a movie? Yeah, sure. I always go to the movies." So I'd love to. So we end up seeing that. So you can hear about that. We have Star Wars Andor, and this is me. If you can't hear it, I'm shaking my fist. Because maybe it's great for you, you're happy. They dropped 3 episodes. They're dropping 3 episodes like every week, I think. I shake my head because that's like 3 hours of content, and so basically, I only managed to watch 2 episodes. I'll say that right now, and because I watched two, I didn't get to an episode of Black Mirror. I wanted to do that, but then it's the same thing. All the Black Mirror's episodes have been out now for what, 3 weeks? Is it been 3 weeks? Maybe more, 3.5 weeks. So I start feeling like, well, it's been out for so long. Those people that really care have probably already watched it. So it's like, do they want to hear about it now? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. So I didn't get to Black Mirror. I don't know if I'd be able to last minute like edit and so there's a small chance that maybe there is, but I don't think it's going to happen. We'll see. But at the same time, maybe I don't know. No, I don't think it would. I would come back to it. Who knows? Then we have I was cursed, man. I try not to curse. I curse all the time in real life, but I just try to keep things as clean as possible here because I don't know who you're listening with. I want to make sure that we don't have to worry about that, and I don't want to have to click that explicit box because that might limit some people and all that. But oh my Lord, Last of Us Episode 2, Season 2, Episode 2. That's another game. I own one of the games. I never played it, and I was like, I should play it because everyone loves this game. So I know nothing about plots, and I don't know how closely it's following, but oh man, my goodness. And then we got another Doctor Who, and then we got some news. So let's get into some news. I guess good news, Superman. So there was a lawsuit against Warner Brothers from the heirs. I think it was Schuster's nephew. Because I don't remember. I don't even know. I try not to dwell on this stuff, but one of the surviving family members, whatever, was suing Warner Brothers. At first, I know in the past, I remember Comic Vine. I don't know if I reported on it or someone else reported on it, but there was a lawsuit where they were saying that if part of the deal is they wanted movies to be made within a certain number of years. So if a long period of time and there's no movie, then they're complaining because they want their share of the money. They're like, it's the characters are right, the material is not being used to its fullest, blah 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 something. I don't know. But this part, I think it was, I don't remember. I don't think it was 92, 2002. There's fairly recently, some deal was reached. And I think the way it works is they're getting a certain, I have in my head, I could be totally wrong. And again, this is why I don't want to deal with this stuff because digging in all this numbers. I think it was I have in my head they get $25,000 a year. And maybe that's just flat out, which it seems like, it doesn't seem like a whole lot. At the same time, 25,000 just, maybe that's guaranteed 25,000, and then maybe I don't know if they get anything else on top of that. I don't know. But what this latest lawsuit was, I think they were trying to block international release, that they're saying that they were violating something or whatever. But I think it was thrown out, and I don't understand this whole thing. I don't know how I feel about that. It's whose side do you take? Because we're all oh, corporate, they're evil and all this. And I feel like when, Simon & Schuster, when they created this, it's yeah, their families should benefit from this. And I feel like I've said this so many times, yes, okay, so the family members should reap the benefits of this, amazing character that everyone loves. But one, they were, I'm assuming it was a work for hire. They got paid to create the character. Now, things were way different way back then, because we're talking almost 100 years ago, right? And no one would thought about the legacy and how long it would be and all that. So, it's yeah, you want to give me $12 to create this character or whatever it was. You don't really think about stuff like that because there's no thought of doing movies. But that's the unfortunate, that's what, there's that aspect of it. What I always look at is when you look at the character that was created originally, and this is where I feel I feel kind of scummy, just this line of thinking, because it should be about creator rights. But when you look at, and I've heard some creators talk about when they stop writing a character. I'll get to something about that. When you look at who Superman was when he was created, that's not the same character that we have today. Because you look at the whole gamut of writers, creators, writers and artists who have contributed to Superman over the years. Like, I feel like all these other characters have added to who he is. Sure, at his heart, Superman is kind of the same. He hasn't drastically changed, but you can look at him. Superman couldn't fly in the beginning. There was no kryptonite in the beginning. I don't even know if like his parents were mentioned or if all his powers were developed. So there's so many things that have been added and changed, and like Lex Luthor wasn't created in the beginning. I remember like reading like a reprint or collection or whatever. It's like Ma and Pa they found baby Kal-El, but they didn't take him in. He went to like an orphanage, because this blew me away, because there's a scene where there's a little baby flying around, and the people at the orphanage are like, what are we going to do with this baby? Why is he flying? Why is he up on top of the curtains or something like that? And I was like, how are they not going to put 2 and 2 that this baby later becomes Superman? But that's besides the point. So that this is happening. Now, the other thing I was mentioning is I was reading catching up or looking at some recent issues of Chip Zdarsky's newsletter. Chip Zdarsky is hilarious. I just want to say that. I feel like I don't say it. I'll say it at any opportunity I get. The guy is hilarious, and he's such a talented writer. You look at like the stuff that he writes, and it's like serious. He's like, I feel like he's a comedy like gold mine, but he doesn't just write like comical stuff. Like his Daredevil comics. A lot of his comics are like serious and like heavy. But apparently, because he created Cold North and Daredevil, people were like, "Hey, how do you feel like how they changed your character in Daredevil Born Again, and like what potentially, most likely, possibly happened to him?" In the last episode. But what he said is like, when I'm done with a book, I don't necessarily look back and worry about that, because he wrote, he's like, my story still exists, so what I did is still there. So whether someone comes in after and flips things around or changes it, it's not going to change what he did. But then he's also, I think he's like, but besides whatever the point, whatever, he's like, Chippy got paid or something. I think he said something like that. So he gets paid for creating the character. He's got getting something out of the show. So whether they change him completely, it's still, they use the character, the name, for whatever reason they felt they needed to or wanted to. So you got all these different things like that, and it's like, rights are so tricky, and I hope things are just continue to get better for creators. And I do feel like it kind of goes without saying is, if you are going to create a character for Marvel or DC, going in, you do not own that character. But maybe now it's just that you own some sort of piece of that character, which I want to say that's like generous of them, but at the same time, they should say. And again, this is where I go back and forth. I feel like, if you are going to, and this is like what Dan Slott has said in the past, where, he was at Marvel for the longest time, and he's like, I get to play in this big sandbox. He gets to, write Spider-Man, who he loves, and, all these other characters. And I still say, using Dan Slott as an example, if he were to create, so let's say Spider-Boy, I guess I think he's a creator. Is he the creator in that? I don't know. But let's say something like Spider-Boy. He's going to create this character, Spider-Boy. Whatever, he's getting paid, and hopefully things are good. But if he's like, I'm going to hold off on this concept. I'm going to do like my own book, creator own title with this. One, could he call it Spider-Boy? That might be kind of tricky, because Marvel's probably locked in the rights to that, long ago, since the Amalgam comics. I don't know. Even if he were to change things, or let's like he's going to tweak the powers or do something, or maybe it's not something as on the nose as like a spider related character. If you create a character that you had planned for Marvel or DC, and you try doing your own, it may not be as successful. Depending on who the creator is, they may be like, oh, I love Dan Slott's comics, so yeah, I'm going to read this, and they might read it, whatever. But you also look at when I feel like there's a lot of readers, and I could be totally wrong. I don't know if a lot of readers necessarily follow creators. They're like, I love Spider-Man, I'm going to buy Spider-Man comics. I love Batman, I'm going to read Batman comics. It's not like, oh, Jeff Loeb is back writing Batman, I got to start buying Batman again. That may happen for some people, but I don't know if it happens necessarily for everyone. So it's hard to say that, if you wanted to create your own character elsewhere, it might not be, unfortunately, it may not be as successful. But if you create a cool character at Marvel or DC, they could be successful. And then I guess it's just a matter of like, what's your contract? Do you get any kickbacks? What happens if there's action figures or T-shirts? Do you get any of that, or is that like, no, you get nothing? So Superman movie's still happening. This is like the longest intro. Jeez, I just spent way too long on it. All right, so what else do we have? Fantastic Four First Step is getting a tie-in comic. That's cool. I hope it's good. I feel like a lot of time, and I hate to say this, I feel like a lot of times the tie-in comics are not as good. It's like I don't. It's just weird that I feel like they just kind of go through the motion, and it's like it's like those comics are not for comic book readers. Maybe they're meant for moviegoers who are like, oh, I'd like to read. Oh, this looks like the movie. I'm going to pick this up for my kid or whatever. But a lot of times they're not great. What they're doing is they're getting Phil Noto to do the cover, so that's a win right there. That's impressive. I just glanced at something. I don't know if I got a press release for this, but I'm not sure who's working on this. Maybe it's a TBD, hasn't been determined yet. I don't know. And I think they're still going with the fact that it's not an origin. I find that kind of interesting. How many people, does the average person know the origin of the Fantastic Four? Yes, there was 2 movies. Was it early 2000s? I don't even know when they came out. And they're Marvel's first family. They've been around forever, and there has been different animated versions, series. But I don't know if the average person knows. I could be, maybe I'm not giving them enough credit. But okay, so we have that. We had a trailer for Wednesday season 2, and it looks good. I enjoyed the first season. Oh, I meant to note the release date, but they're breaking it down into 2 parts, which I love that. I'm totally down with that. I feel like it was like August and September. I could be totally wrong, so I apologize for that. But I'm down for more Wednesday, so I feel like they did a good job. So I'm happy that that's coming back. There's a rumor, and this is kind of silly. There's a bunch. I saw a bunch of different rumors pop up, and I'm just like, I'm not gonna really address them. Maybe I will, because now that I say that, I feel like I should. But one is, it's just kind of silly. They're like, there's going to be a new trailer for Ironheart in May. No source, no whatsoever. Like, how do you know this? Are you just randomly guessing? And that is a problem where I don't understand it, because of that, because there's no source. It's like, I don't want to even mention, whoever this source is, and maybe that's crap on my part, but I could say like there's going to be a Thor and Deadpool movie. And why? Because there is, and obviously, it's like, well, they hinted at it in the movie, right? There's, we got to find out about that. Who says who? That could be a joke, and there's never any touch on it. There was like one rumor that, like, oh, they maybe could do like a big send off for Chris Hemsworth's Thor in one the Doomsday or something. Why? Has he said anything? And I don't know. It's just these rumors. So who knows? But I feel like Ironheart, has that been completed for a while now? Did they like shelve it, like hang on, or I don't even know what the status is of that. And I feel like it's going to be a tricky to sell that. It was without Robert Downey Jr. And I'm not saying that you need Robert Downey Jr., but I feel like that was like where the character came from. You had that first connection, and then you could take off from there. So like, if they could have launched this while Robert Downey Jr. Iron Man was still around, and then he passes, and then you could have some of the more the legacy stuff like that. But right now, there's not a whole lot. And yeah, because like in the beginning, then Tony Stark's like, dude, you used my designs, you reverse engineered my designs to make this suit, and then that the whole is that okay, is that not type of thing. They're not going to get into that because who's going to go knocking on Riri's door, Happy Hogan. So I don't know. Obviously, of course, I want the show to be successful. I want all the Marvel shows and movies to be successful because I want them to keep coming. So we'll see about that. Another rumor theory: Supergirl it might be changing its name. And that happened with Superman because originally it was Superman Legacy, and then they're just like, it's just Superman. James Gunn is like, nah. When I write it was Superman Legacy, but after I did it, it's just Superman. Makes sense. But with Supergirl, so I forgot if they're wrapped, if they're done filming, but there was a logo scene like on a director's chair, and it's just Supergirl. There's no hint. There's no nothing. No Woman of Tomorrow. So people are saying maybe they're just going to shorten it because Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, that is a long title. Who wants to say all that? So if you just say just Supergirl, just call these characters by who they are. We don't need a big title. It's just it makes it look classier or whatever, but no one wants to put that up on a marquee, and no one is going to put that up on a marquee. They're just going to call it what it is. So we'll have to see about that. Andrew Garfield, obviously people keep asking him about Spider-Man, and can we believe what he says? But he says that, he would like to come back as Spider-Man, do Spider-Man in some form or something like that. But he says that it would have to be really weird. He wants something different. He wants to do something strange. He doesn't just want to just do Spider-Man again. He wanted to be like different from and I think he kind of commented like on Spider-Verse how it's like very visual, it's very different and out there. So he'd want to do something like that rather than just do regular. And I've said it before, it would be great to see a continuation of the Amazing Spider-Man, the Andrew Garfield universe Spider-Man. Same thing with Tobey Maguire. I hope they will do that they'll, with the success of having them come back, for their cameo, whatever you want to call it. I think people would like that. And then that way you can make 3 times as many Spider-Man movies. And it's not just like, oh, Tom Holland's not available right now. He wants to do this other thing. He wants to take a break in acting or whatever. You can have 3 movies in production. Do that. Do different Spider-Man movies instead of doing Morbius or, some other Spider-Man villain that is cool, but it doesn't work carrying their own movie. That's my thoughts on that. What about Mandalorian and Grogu? So people are, we got the movie coming out. Movies, I think it's May 22nd, 2026. The question is, are we going to get a season 4? Or is the movie going to be the last thing? And I think Jon Favreau is like, well, when I'm writing it, I'm just, focusing on this right now. Because they've announced a season 4, but then I think it may not be locked in. Because obviously they can always go back on that. So I guess it's just a matter of where things end with the movie. Like, does it tie everything up? And the other thing could be like, where do people still care? Do they still want more? And I feel like it's weird to do season 1, season 2. Was there a 3rd season, right? There's 3 seasons. And then do a movie and then go back to TV? Because that seems like a step backwards. Where it's like you don't, I don't know. It's one thing if you do a movie and then do a spin-off TV series. But to go TV, movie, TV, I mean, it could be done, but it just seems a little weird. Devil May Cry, I meant to watch that. I thought about covering that on the podcast, but there's like other stuff going on. And of course, Netflix dropping all the episodes is a problem for me. But the good news, I haven't checked any of it out. I've been wanting to. It's getting a season 2. So hooray for that. Hopefully it's good. So what about Spider-Man Noir? I'm on the fence with this. I hope it's good. It's supposed to come out. Now they're saying it's going to be like early 2026. So that's, it's going to be here sooner, hopefully rather than later. But apparently, and I don't know if this was said before, it's going to air on MGM Plus. Then later, it'll air on Prime Video because they're connected. But I'm sorry, I am not going to add on MGM Plus just to watch this show. Probably, maybe. I mean, unless the trailer makes it look really cool, I don't know if I want to do that, if I want to pay just to watch the show. Now, here's the other thing. This is where I feel like it would be smart on their part to do the show weekly. If they are going to drop the entire show like Amazon has been doing recently, like with Reacher and with The Bondsman, which I did watch the 3rd episode of The Bondsman. I'm not going to talk about it on the podcast because I feel it's too late, but I liked it. And they're setting up, there's like overarching like plot line, like stuff with Kevin Bacon and his wife and his kid on top of like the week-to-week Demon of the Week or whatever. But Amazon tends to drop it. Lately, they've been dropping everything at once. So if you're trying to get people to add on MGM Plus, you're going to drop all the episodes, people are going to watch it, then they're going to cancel it, or maybe do a trial and then cancel it. I don't know. That's why I think it's silly when they do that. What about some comic book news? Space Ghost. I love Space Ghost. I don't know what it is about Space Ghost. There's always been something. I always felt the character's been super cool. We've had a really great comic that I've unfortunately fallen behind the last couple issues. David Pepose and Jonathan Lau have been doing a great job. And then I saw the news, like, there's a new volume coming out. I was like, oh, wait. And not only new volume, but it's like new #1. So it's kind of like it's relaunching. I'm like, already? It's been a year, not even a year, barely a year. And I was like, so who's going to be working on this? What does this mean? So the creative team is the exact same. It's the same exact creative team. So that is great because they've been doing a really, really good job. So why the heck are we getting a new? It's because it's been, I think, 13 issues and an annual or something like that. Why is there a new #1? That's just how the comics market works. Now, is someone going to buy, would they rather buy issue #1 or issue #14? Issue #1 is going to sell more. I get it. I don't like it, but I get it. So, okay, just keep making them. That's fine with me. And then the last thing, apparently there's going to be a Predator Kills the Marvel Universe comic. And I think that's brilliant. We had the Predator versus Black Panther. I kind of read the first issue, and I was like, this is fine. This is okay. Predator versus Spider-Man. We'll talk about that this week in just a little bit because there's that comic. And then I don't know what else there's been. I can't remember if there's been other ones, but there's going to be a Predator Kills the Marvel Universe, and I think that makes sense. I think that could be fun. It's going to be violent, but we've seen how many Deadpool kills of the Marvel Universe has there been? Was there a Punisher kills the Marvel Universe? So it's it'll be interesting to see what they do with that. But that's going to be it for the news. So hopefully it'll be more interesting things coming up. With comic books, I didn't read anything from other publishers besides Image. So it's just Image, Marvel, and DC, I think. At Image, we had G.I. Joe #6. So this is the new part of the Energon universe, whatever they're calling it. So where we've been is like Duke, and I still think I really like the fact that we have Baroness as part of G.I. Joe. I think that's weird and it's cool. So we got like a Hawk. No, not Hawk. We got Duke, Baroness. Who else was in there? I don't even want to say it. I still can't believe they killed off a character in the first issue. I keep waiting. It's like, no, the character's alive. Surprise. But don't bring him back as like a cyborg. Hint. But yeah, that's crazy. I don't want to spoil it because people may be waiting for the trade to come out, and just know that that's coming. And so they went after Cobra. So they're head running with Cobra and with Destro, and it's a good issue and everything. It's interesting seeing, I will say, Duke versus Cobra, but I just don't know how I feel about the Transformers stuff, the Energon stuff. And it's cool to have a shared universe. I don't know. I don't feel like it's necessary. And I haven't been reading Transformers for some. I've fallen behind, and I mean, do I? Because when I was reading it, we had Duke witnessing, seeing the Transformers, and he's kind of like haunted by the image. He doesn't know what's going on. But I feel like with everything he was like looking into, is like it's like I'll classify it in the secret. But in the Transformers comics, it's like it's not a secret. All these people in this town are aware of what's going on. So it feels weird. Like there's like a disconnect, even though it's supposed to be a shared universe. I don't know, and we'll see how it goes. But I know I should be reading Transformers. So it was a good issue, and with everything I'm saying, probably be eating my words later. But the last page on this issue was like, I was like, whoa, that's great. There's actually a couple things, because there's like one thing leading is like, wait, what is this character doing? What does that mean? That's what's sitting next to them in the passenger seat as they're driving in this vehicle. It's like, what are you trying to say? What are you hinting at? And then something else happens. It's like, whoop. Okay, then we had a G.I. Joe Real American Hero Roadblock #1 one shot. So this is one of the silent interlude issues. Okay, so I'm what it comes down to, I'm not a huge fan of these silent issues. And I think that the main thing is because they go so fast. There's nothing to read, so you just kind of skim through it. And I know maybe it's a matter of slowing down, taking everything in, looking at all the detail in the panels. But sometimes you don't really need. There's nothing to really see, depending on what's drawn there. But we got the silent issue with Roadblock, and here, what am I going to say? I'm not the biggest Roadblock fan, and I feel like sometimes he's overpowered. He's a big dude. He's really strong. He's usually got like a big gun, big machine gun, or big cannon, or something that he's using. But a lot of times it's like, does this guy have like superpowers? Is he super strength? Like, how is he able to? There's a scene in this comic where he's trying to rescue someone in like an armored vehicle, whatever, Cobra armored truck type of thing. He's like, ugh! He tears off the door with his hands. How is that possible? I don't care how strong you are. Again, he's big, and there's some the way he's drawn and some panel, he's like really big. So I don't know. And then the story, I hate saying this stuff, but and then the person that he's rescuing. At first, I'm like, wait, who is that? And then I was like, okay, I think it's so and so. I shouldn't say it because I don't want to spoil it now. But it's like, okay, I think it's this person, and so it was fine. And the fact that we're getting all of these every week, I feel like they're pushing it too much. That they should have. Do one a year. But I get it. Then they could, do a trade. Here's all the silent issues that you're going to read in like 5 minutes. So I don't know. But yeah, we had that. And then I think that was all I read. Youngblood Deluxe #1 came out. I didn't look at that. Oh wait, the Mummy, Universal's Monsters of the Mummy #2 came out. I missed that. And then Witchblade #10. I fell behind on that. So that was at Image. At Marvel, we had I feel like I forgot to read everything. Let's see. We had Amazing Spider-Man #2. This was good. I didn't like this issue 2, which is, I can't even see what the original, the legacy, hang on, 966. I didn't like it as much as the first issue. And the reason is, so basically what's going on is one Spider-Man is trying to get a job. And he's blowing his interviews because of Spider-Man, because something comes up. We have that. And it's a little annoying when it continues. It happens all the time. And I get that that's Spider-Man, Parker Luck, all that stuff. But realistically, it's like the guy's got to get a job. How is he going to live in New York City without a job? So, you got to do something. The other thing is, one of the interviews that he had to run out on is because Rhino was rampaging through, the streets or whatever. And then it's like, wait, no, he was drugged. Something's happening here. And now it's like, wait, is Spider-Man drugged too? What's going on here? And then who's he fighting? Who's responsible? What's happening? And yeah, it is. I am enjoying it, and it's so much better than the 8 Deaths of Spider-Man. That was so hard. But so like I said, it was good. I didn't like it as much as the first issue. Maybe just because I want to know where's this going. But yeah, so we had that. Then we had Avengers number 25. This one I did not like. I did not like this issue, and again that's so there's a couple reasons. One, it's a one world under Doom. So Jed McKay is writing it. Alessandro Schiti is doing the art, but the main thing is, so we got this Masters of Evil, and it's a new incarnation. I don't care for I feel like it's a pretty pathetic incarnation, and maybe that's the point, to mix things up so it's not just the same old Masters of Evil. But basically, I guess what I'll say is, we got the Mad Thinker. I just don't care about the Mad Thinker. I think the Mad Thinker's a dork. But maybe this is like his redemption. This is his time to shine. What he does, I mean, I get where they're going with this. Is the Avengers are dealing with some stuff, but they're big Impossible. Was it Impossible City? Whatever it's called. The big AI city, the sentient city, the base of the Avengers gets hacked. Is what it comes down to. The Thinker managed to hack it and take control of it, which is like, that is so extremely dangerous because of the potential, and it's annoying. But I get, again, that you have to have this, otherwise there's no story. If there's no conflict, what kind of comic is it going to be? We don't want to see just heroes lying around, sitting around doing nothing. You need something. But then since all the Avengers aren't there, this is also a chance for those who are there. I don't want to give anything away. A chance for them to step up and prove themselves in case there's any doubt of what they're capable of. It. So there's that. Deadpool Wolverine number 4. So I enjoyed the first issue. The second issue was okay. I don't know if I read the third issue, but you can see on the cover, we got Strife here. So I didn't even pick this up. I'm just not a fan of Strife. Cable, even Cable. Sometimes I don't care for Cable. Like the Chrome and Love and Chrome. I enjoyed the beginning of that, but then the last couple of issues, I'm just like, I don't know. So yeah, I don't know what's going on here. Eddie Brock Carnage. I can't believe I'm reading this comic. I hate Carnage. I still don't like Carnage here, but it's interesting that Eddie Brock has bonded with Carnage, and it's like, why, dude? And so what he's trying to do is control, keep Carnage controlled. So he's working with Carnage, and Carnage wants to eat people, wants to kill people. So Eddie's like, all right, but we're going to kill bad people. We're going to kill, murderers and that. So, okay, that makes sense. But obviously, can you really trust Carnage to cooperate? And there's like stuff going on. The weird thing is, what we saw last issue, Eddie got some information. It's like, okay, there's a serial killer in whatever this area. He thinks it's someone in the police department. In this, this small town, I don't remember how big it was. So he is unable to get a clear response or connection or something like that. So he goes in there and he confronts the person. And it turns out, I guess you can see on the cover, this officer, the serial killer, was Bushwhacker, who is a lame Marvel villain. And when Carnage, Eddie Brock, outs him, then he just starts killing people. So basically it's like, okay, you're completely, rather than say, all right, you uncovered my secret, I'm going to kill you because I kill people. Instead, he just kind of completely destroys his secret identity or his cover and kills like the whole police department.
So then Eddie needs to do something, and then there's some kind of gross happens, but it's just like, whew, it's kind of messy. Infinity Watch. I did not read this. I don't know if I should be reading this, but I haven't been I haven't been able to get into this. Magic number 4. I want to like this more than I do because of time. I was like, well, I'm going to put this and read this later. So, this comic, we have covers. I love, and also I'm going to say this again, got J. Scott Campbell doing the art. His wife, Tanya LaRoe, she's doing the colors. So I love the fact that they are working together on these comics. I think that's awesome and great. And they're amazing. I mean, her colors. Check her out on Instagram. Check out her account. Like she does. She doesn't just color. She draws. She does like painting. Like her stuff is like amazing, and just looking at the colors here, and I just do not understand how colors work. How you can make it look at that? Because if you follow me on Instagram or TikTok, I attempt to do digital art because I find that doing the digital I shouldn't even talk about because I'm sure no one cares. Doing digitally is much more forgiving because I love being able to just like super zoom in and just try to capture little tiny details and then pull back and then doing the layers and all that. But trying to blend the colors, I just don't know how to do it. And I'm sure like once it's like, oh, that's super easy, and it's not for me. So you look at the covers here, and it's such a cool cover because we got Magic looking straight on, and then we see like two aspects of her like kind of looking off to the side, and then there's like the Dark Child aspect, and then there's like this demon. So you basically have the main Ilyana, and then you have like 4 other heads there, and then you just got the colors, and it just looks good. I didn't read this comic, so I want to read. I should read it. New Champions number 4. We got the origin of Gold Tiger. Who the heck is Gold Tiger? I'm just feeling like maybe this comic is not for me since it's like a bunch of 10-year-olds or young people. So I didn't check that out, but I should. But I'm not. Then we have One World Under Doom. At first I was like, I'm not going to read this, but I did, and I'll be honest, part of me is like, I barely remember what happened. It's so annoying. So like the Avengers are like, well, we need to work with some villains. I don't even remember who they work with. So they're working with Arcade. I hate Arcade. Mysterio, Dr. Octopus, the Goblin Queen, Baron Mordo, which that's a good idea, because he could probably be useful. And then MODOK. I'm like, really? So they're going to try to distract Doom. And yeah, it's just, but can you trust these villains? And and then someone else is waiting on the sidelines. They're going to do something. So they're on the cover of the next issue, which I'm assuming has been reviewed or released. But yeah. So I don't care for this Doom, Sorcerer Supreme taking over the world. I don't know what's the point. Predator versus Spider-Man. So this is Benjamin Percy, Marcelo Ferreira, who's also going to do the art in that Predator versus Marvel Universe, or Predator kills the Marvel Universe. I don't even know what I said. So with this, I read it. And I liked it. It was pretty good. I'm surprised to say because like I said with the Predator versus Black Panther, I was like, okay, it's an interesting idea, but I don't know. The weird thing about this comic, the weird decision, is that I get that they're going out of continuity, but they're going out of continuity and jumping back, and I don't understand the reason for that. So, like, basically what's happening is Peter Parker is working at the Daily Bugle. He's still working for Jameson. And Jameson is like the angry barking, Parker, where's my photos? Where's this? Versus the more laid back Jonah who will help Peter, in a spot if he has to. we have that, and then we also have Mary Jane is Peter's girlfriend, which you know me, that is awesome, that's great, but it might not be because people are getting killed, and things might not. I don't know what's going to happen to Mary Jane. Yeah, so we haven't. I will say they're setting things up. Yeah, but there's some gruesome stuff going on. So it's basically setting up Spider-Man to fight Predator. So now the thing, at first I was like, Spider-Man can't fight Predator, but then I always go back, Spider-Man kicked Fire Lord's butt, Herald of Galactus. Spider-Man, you can't beat Fire Lord. Want to bet? I love that cover. People hate it. I remember like some people in the, I think I never hung out in the battle threads on Comic Vine because it got too crazy. People got too angry. But every once in a while I'd go in there and kind of in a jokey way, I think I may have posted that cover when some Spider-Man versus someone. And I was like, he beat a Herald Galactus, and they're like, blah, blah, blah. That shouldn't count. And so I feel like Spider-Man could hold his own against Predator. It's really going to depend on the environment. I mean, if they're fighting in the city, yeah, it's and because he's got the spider sense. Can he dodge like laser blasting? How much of a heads up is he going to get? So yeah, it's going to be interesting. I will definitely read the next issue. What I will not read is Sabretooth, The Dead Don't Talk. We got issue 5. Looking at this cover, beware the claws of the, what is this? The crocodilian? Not the crocodilian. There's it's not like Killer Croc. It's like actually has an alligator head, and he's wearing pants. I don't know why that's making me laugh so much when we have Killer Croc at DC. Ultimate Black Panther. I have no idea what's going on. I should get caught up. Werewolf by Night, and this is something I thought was like a mini series, but we're on issue 9. X-Force number 10, Legacy 300. I was like, man, it's the 300th issue. I should probably read this. So I got it, looked at it, started looking, and like, I don't like this team of X-Force. I don't care. I don't know what it is about Forge. What I think it is, actually, I do think I know what it is. I feel like he's kind of a jerk. He's got this attitude, and he's not like super nice. And does he have to be? He doesn't have to be. But if he's gonna be like team leader, you gotta change the way you talk and deal with everyone. And we got with Sage, which I don't know how I feel about her. I'm on the fence with her. But then we have Captain Britain and Oskani, Rachel. So okay. And then Tank, I don't care about Tank. So that's basically a team. Because Surge, who's an interesting character, was she in New X-Men for a while? Things didn't go too well for her. So, yeah. And I don't think I've read, I know I didn't read the last, I don't know how many issues I haven't read. But it's like they're still fighting the same thing. There's like these multiverse characters, other characters. And it's like, is this still going on? Then I was like, but there's you look in a table or the credits, whatever. It says a special tale celebrating 300 issues of X-Force. Beginning now, note, this story takes place after X-Force Volume 1, number 25. And I was like, I don't remember what happened in issue 25, but it starts off where Cable is like looking kind of gross, like on an operating table or whatever. And then as I was, it didn't hold my interest. So I'm sorry to say that was a kind of a bummer. Then what else do we have? We had X-Men 15. So we get some insight, like what's the deal with this girl, this mutant? Because she says she was a mutant, but then she's not a mutant. But it's like, wait, but is she? It's like she is, but she's not, but she is. And it's like you're flip-flopping back and forth what you're showing us and telling us. So we get more on that, but we do see, there is something that's the X-Men need to deal with. And then there's like the fact that Kid Omega was shot down. Where's he at? So, things are happening. Decisions are being made. Like Magic makes she does something that could have consequences. And yeah, I don't want to spoil anything, but it was. Oh, I guess what I will spoil is who pops up. I think she was in the last issue. I could be wrong, but we have Cassandra Nova. Do I like anyone anymore? I don't like Cassandra Nova so much, and I just, yeah. But she's here, and so that's not going to be good news. Then I should start reading these. Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. So issue 5 came out, and I don't know. So you see, but based on a cover, he's wearing like the hockey jersey costume. So does that mean these are all a prequel to the animated series? Which I don't know how I'd feel about that, but I should read those. So that was Marvel. At DC, we had Batman Hush. So this is Batman 159, and friends like, hey, is Hush 2 in continuity or not? And these days you can never tell. My answer was I think so because it's in the main Batman title. It doesn't have to be, but I feel like if it wasn't going to be in continuity, it would be a separate thing. So just like when Jeff Johns and Jason Fabok did Batman 3 Jokers, even though that started in the pages of Justice League, New 52 Justice League, it's weird, and then they made it Black Label. And then there's like some stuff that happens, like hinting, stuff between two characters. It's like, wait, so is this out of continuity then? So yeah, you can never tell these days, because like sometimes it's like the publishers are just like, we're just going to do this story because we just want to sell this. And we're not going to worry about continuity, and you worry about it. So Batman, he has a choice. Joker's not doing well. Hush, if it is Hush, something really bad happened to Joker, and he needs to decide, should he try to save Joker or just let it be? I think we know what Batman's going to try to do, but you can see, I think on the cover, I don't have it in front of me. But I feel like Jason Todd was on the cover. Because, what is he going to think if Batman tries to save Joker? And I feel like they've already settled things, but now it's like Batman or Bruce and Jason Todd are going to be arguing or fighting over this again. So we'll see. Absolute Wonder Woman. This was fine. I ended up started to skim this. There's just because we have like some more like the God stuff or like the Amazon, the Paradise Island, and just whatever they're at, and the Greek gods. It wasn't holding my attention. So I don't know. Martian Manhunter, Absolute Martian Manhunter. Number 2, I don't know how you feel about this book. One, I say, I don't know if I personally need this book. I'm not the biggest Martian Manhunter fan. I think he can be, he can be a cool character. He can be an important character. But for the most part, I'm like, if I never read another Martian Manhunter comic again, I'm fine. But with this Absolute version, things are pretty weird and trippy. And that's what I think makes this an interesting comic, is because it's not just more of the same. And when you're reading this, I'm like, I don't know what it is I'm actually reading. Because now here's a tricky part. Unless I miss something, I'm kind of like, I don't know if I'm 100% that he's actually a Martian. I'm pretty sure he is, but I don't think he knows that. Is that right? Did I miss something? And the other thing is with the art, with Javier Rodriguez, where I really dig his style and everything like that, but things get kind of trippy. And that like adds to like what is going on in this book, because it's like, what is going on in his mind? Is this really happening? Is he seeing this? Or anyone else seeing this? So it's a weird book, and that's what I think kind of makes it cool, because it's something that's a little different, and I'm just trying to get comfortable in this chair. So if you heard it's like some clicking of whatever. So I don't know how I feel about this, but I will say that it has me curious to see what's going on, because I have no idea where this is going. And then, when you compare this like absolute Batman or absolute Flash, and I feel like with like Batman, Wonder Woman, and Flash, those are a little more. No, Wonder Woman's borderline, almost taking it like a different direction. But like Batman, well, maybe you can say the same thing with Batman's origin and that. But I feel like those books are all closer to who the character is, and with Martian Manhunter, it's like I don't know what's happening here. Justice League Unlimited #6. This is continuing from World's Finest, and the fact that we have friggin' Gorilla Grodd. Gorilla Grodd. I don't care for him. See, I don't like anyone. But what we do find out, what is his name? Airwave? The one guy that's been in Ultimate Justice League Unlimited, where it's like, okay, he's working for someone else. He's going to betray the team. So we get the story here, and it's a little annoying. I'm like, really? This is what's blah. So yeah, but aside from that, it was hard for me because I don't care about Gorilla City or anything like that. Superman #25. What's the cover look like? I'm trying to remember. We got the sort of, I guess, basically, I guess you can say we have the return of evil Lex. Mercy Graves, man, this is the problem I had with this book. So she does some stuff, sets things into motion, because she's all Team Lex, and friendly Lex. That's not what she wants. That's not the Lex Luthor she knows. So she kind of does some stuff, and I feel like she's like out of nowhere totally does a 180 and becomes like a literal, like, well, not literal, but it becomes like a mustache twirling villain. I mean, just like so over the top and ridiculous, like what she's trying to do and whatever stand for. It's like, where is this coming from? And then, so then Lois, or Superwoman Lois, and Superman, and what's Lex gonna do? And it was good, but there's just stuff that bothered me. Then we had Superman: The Last Days of Lex Luthor #2. This was okay, but it was like all this stuff with Brainiac, and so we basically have Superman and Lex. Brainiac does something to kind of like tie them together, and so it's basically them two. Lex is dying, and they need to stop Brainiac, so they have to team up, and okay. Then Green Lantern 22. This was okay. We have basically Hector Hammond turned on the DEO. It seems like, because he was supposed to be cured, but then he's back to his evil ways, and so Hal Jordan is like fighting him. But then it's like, so it's like, how do you stop Hector Hammond when he's like all powered up? And, what does this mean? It's like Mr. Bones, the director of the DEO, whatever you want to call him. I think he's a director. But it's like, what does he know? And what is he going to think about this? Because him and Hal Jordan kind of like butting heads. So, I don't know. And then I believe that's all I read, because we had Flash #20. There's Metamorpho. There's Green Arrow. And with Green Arrow, so we're at issue 23 already. That seems crazy. I haven't read the past few issues, and it was interesting in the beginning. It's not that I didn't like it, but I missed an issue, and then I missed a second issue, and then it's just continued. Green Arrow's tricky and a character for me. Part of the slight confusion is I wasn't sure. Is this like flashback story? Like, is this young, early career Green Arrow, or is this just where he's at now? And I guess he's current. I don't even know. But that was it. There's like Green Lantern Dark, I think. There's Power Girl. There's a Peacemaker and a Harley Quinn, and that's it. So that's all I read. That is comic books for the week. All right, Doctor Who Season 2, Episode 2, Lux. This, what did I think of this episode? It was
It was fine. It was good, for the most part. The nemesis was interesting. It's kind of fun, but then the more you see of it, it almost feels like I don't. And this is where it's like, am I being too skeptical? Where it's like, are they trying too hard? But it is kind of neat and interesting what they do with it. Of course, there's some parts where you roll your eyes. Belinda, she's, I find her annoying in the beginning. There may have been a hurdle, I don't even know what I'm trying to say now, but there may have been a little change that hopefully, and this is what I was assuming was going to happen, because it just felt like they're just making it so much like we are not supposed to like her. If that was their goal, man, they have succeeded so bad, because I found her so extremely annoying in the first episode, and she is in this episode a bit. She's just like so demanding. So I'll talk about that. So let's just get to it. There's like this old time movie about an atomic bomb. There's a bombing site in Nevada. There's people watching in theater. There's like all sorts. There's some kids. There's teens, whatever. Or like kids, like a mom and a kid, and there's teens and couples and stuff like that. Then we see like the projectionist. He puts on a cartoon after a news clip, which is kind of weird. There's this. It's called Mr. Ring-a-Ding Goes to Town. So he's this guy walking. I don't know what he is. He's kind of blue and he has like a pig nose or whatever in his hat and long legs, whatever. It's kind of cartoon character. Comes across this girl who asks who he might be. He's like, "Don't make me laugh." And she says, it was like, well, he's a stranger in these parts. And he repeats himself, "Don't make me laugh." And then he starts singing this song, whatever. And he kind of does this little like dance as he's singing. In the booth, like clouds pass over the moon. And then you see like in the skylight, this moonbeam like shines down, reflects off a spoon, bounces onto a thumbtack, and then goes onto the film stream. And then it travels down the film stream. You've seen in projection, like with theaters, where there's kind of like a stream of light that goes down to the screen because that's how it projects or whatever. So the moonbeam travels down the beam of the movie, and then Mr. Ring-a-Ding asks the girl, like, what's her name? She says, Sunshine Sally. And he's like, no. He's like, I'm more interested in moonlight. And he kind of says it in a like dastardly whisper or whatever. And then he's like, that icy cold beam of heaven touching my soul and bringing me life. He's like, what do you think? I was like, I asked you. Yes, you. And he's like talking to the audience. And like the projectionist looks confused. This guy like, tells this girl, is like, it's kind of silly. And Mr. Ring-a-Ding is like, what'd you say? He's like, I'm looking at you with the glasses. Like, what did you say? And he's like, who, me? Don't make me laugh. He's like, yes, you. And then the glasses asks the girl, like, how are they doing this? And Mr. Ring-a-Ding's like, if you won't tell me, then I'll have to find out for myself. Get ready, because here I come. Giant Mr. Ring-a-Ding climbs out of the screen. And he's like, we're going 3D. Although he's not 3D, he's still a cartoon. So this is a neat thing. The villain is a cartoon in the real world. So kind of, if you remember that movie Cool World, back in the day, Brad Pitt, and what's her name? Kim Basinger. So he's like, the projectionist tries turning it off or whatever, but it won't. And then he's like, and remember, whatever you do, don't make me laugh. And everyone screams. So then in the TARDIS, we see the Doctor working under like the council, and he's like dropping pieces or whatever. And he's like, you left Earth on May the 24th, which is an awesome day, May the 24th. It's my birthday. May the 24th, 2025. And he's like, the one place the TARDIS cannot reach is May the 24th. So he tries again. It's the same thing. He's like, we bounce off. And then annoyingly, can't you get this box of yours fixed? You're a Time Lord. Take it back to planet Time Lordia. And he's like, oh, I wish it was called that. He's like, the name is Gallifrey. And she's like, well, then let's go home to Gallifrey. They must have garages. And he's like, maybe not today, yeah? But I never asked. What about you? Who have you got? Girlfriend, boyfriend, other friend? And she's like, no, but there is mom and dad. He's like, ah. And she's like, he works in tax. She's a violinist. He's like, oh, no way. And she's in a London Regency Orchestra. She's amazing. And he's like, oh. And then she's like, my dad's kind of musical. Well, he sings. Well, he loves grabbing a microphone. He's awful. And he makes me laugh so much. And I really, really would like to see them again. Please? And he nods. And he puts this like little pole that he took out with a light on top, like sort of like this base thing. He's like, this should get you back home. It's a vortex indicator, which I am going to call a vindicator, yeah? And she's like, so what's it do? He's like, we land anywhere, and the Vindicator casts out a signal like a fishing line, and whoosh, to May 24th, 2025, and we use it to pull the TARDIS in like a hook, so we must land. He pulls the lever again, and he's like, we're on Earth. We bounce all the way back to 1952. And she looks kind of shocked. She's like, we're in actual 1952? And he's like, except you want to go home, so I'm going to pop out on my own. And she's like, not a chance. She's like, out of the way. Okay, so now, she's excited. Now she actually wants to take part of it. She doesn't want to get home right away. She starts for the door, but then she stops, turns around, and she's like, I went to sleep in this. And he's like, And she's like, could it get me arrested in 1952? And he's like, no, Belinda Chandra, this is the fun bit, honey. And he puts out his hand, she takes it. He's like, the clothes. And this is a part that it makes me roll my eyes, whatever, cringe a little bit, but whatever, it's fine, it's fun. So they both laugh. They go, running in this one door. They come out like immediately. So I'm assuming, time passes. They come out this other way. Her hair is all done up like 1952 style. And she's like, this bit I like. And then they're kind of dancing around a TARDIS. And she's like, oh, come on. But whatever. Outside, she's surprised that the box moved. And he tells her that they're in Miami, Florida. So it's 4 a.m. And so they got dressed up for no one to see them. But then he looks at his hand and kind of to himself, he's like, 1952. He's like, that might be wise. Which I'm glad that they at least acknowledge that. It's like, he is a black man in 1952, so that's going to cause some problems. Which is unfortunate. So they're outside a theater, and there was a Rock Hudson movie on the marquee, and she mentions they talked about him in her HIV training, and she's like, there he is, a big movie star. And she's like, time travel is strange since we know what happens to him. And the doctor turns on the Vindicator, walks over to her. He's like, question is, who chains up a cinema? It's like, those chains are strong, like they're locking up a wild beast. And then she noticed some flowers are outside this different door, and she's like, oh, someone must have died. So he reads a card on the flowers, come back, Tommy Lee. And he's like, come back. And then there's a notice that the theater's closed by the ordinance of the Dade County Police Department. And the doctor, he reads another card. I love you, Christine. More than one person. What happened? The Vindicator beeps, and he says that is a direct line to 2025. They might need to land a couple more times and triangulate the signal. So he puts it inside the TARDIS. And she's like, then we better go. Is that right? And he's like, yeah. And she's like, we can go now? He's like, suppose. And she's like, we need to get inside the TARDIS thing and leave? Yes. And she's like, just so friggin' demanding. It's like, he owes her nothing. He's not obligated to take her back on her terms. Like, is she paying for the ride? It's not like an Uber. It's not his fault that she got kidnapped by robots. He risked his life. He lost a close friend, Sasha 55, by helping her out. And she was also super excited to check out 1952 when it's convenient for her, when she's interested. But now that she's looked around for like 10 seconds, she's ready to go back. And he's like, except, and she's like, oh my God, you actually want to investigate that spooky old cinema? And she's like, you're Scooby-Doo. And the doctor's like, honey, I'm Velma. And I'm just wondering, 1952, could we risk a coffee? So they go in there, the kid working in the diner at 4 a.m., he pours them coffee, and he says, some people say a boat came and took him to Cuba, recruiting people for Batista. He said, but the fact is 15 people went missing. And he's like, and he calls him sir, which I like. He's very polite, even though he's black, so that's great. He said 50 people all went missing in one night. He's like, 3 months ago, they just disappeared. And he's like, actually from the cinema? And he's like, oh, I like your English cinema, but the picture house, yeah. Mrs. Lowenstein, and he calls out to this lady sitting in a booth. He's like, these folks are asking about the palazzo. So for some reason, there's this lady sitting in a booth alone having coffee at 4 a.m. So the kid's like, this lady, her son went in there, Tommy Lee, never seen again. And she's like, I'll talk to anyone about that boy of mine if you'll bend the rules. And the kid's like, I got no problem. This time of night, who's looking? Because he probably shouldn't be in the diner, which is stupid. So Belinda's like, bend the rules. And the doctor's like, 1952, Miami. The diner is segregated. No blacks, which includes you. We're breaking the law just by being here. She's like, but that's, oh my God. It's like, they can't. He's like, save it for later, Belinda. Right now, we are busy. And she's like, how can you say that? He's like, I have toppled worlds. Sometimes I wait for the people who toppled the worlds. Until then, I live in it and I shine. So Mrs. Lowenstein tells him that her kid was 16. He was the kindest boy. He would go to pictures every night if he could. He watched the same ones over and over again. He liked, Tales from Outer Space. And Belinda's like, well, what did the police do? Did they search the place? And she nods. They turned the place upside down. They came back. They searched it again and again and nothing. The doctor's like, did they search at night? And she's like, don't think so. Why do you ask? And he's like, things are different at night. So Belinda asks, how often does she come here to the diner? And she's like, all the time, because it's like right across from the theater. You can see it out the window. She says that she'll sit and wait for that boy forever. And she thought that, they'd given up until they delivered that thing, and she's pointing to the police box. And the doctor's like, does that give you hope? And she's like, it does, sir. So she calls him sir too. So that I don't know, warms my heart a little bit when you see someone who's not racist. So I think it's amazing. And I'm being totally serious with that. It just breaks my heart. I hate racism. So he puts out his hand and she puts her hand in his. He's like, well, let me tell you, hope can change the world, Mrs. Lowenstein. My name is a doctor and I will try to find your son. So they walk out. Then the counter kid talks to him. He's like, gives you the chills, doesn't it? Can still hear those old movies late at night. And then Belinda's like, you're not saying it's haunted. And he's like, pardon me, Missy, that's crazy talk. I mean, he's still in there. Mr. Pye, the old projectionist, Reginald Pye, he got arrested, but they had no evidence. So they closed the place and he stayed on as caretaker. Every night, the movies keep playing to an empty house. And then the doctor dramatically says to Belinda, he's like, because the kid leaves, he's like, there is literally a caretaker in a haunted cinema. And she's like, come on, Velma. He's like, okay, Fred. So he uses a sonic, on a padlock at a fire exit. So they enter the theater while the movie is playing. He calls out to Mr. Pye, up at the projection booth. He's like, I know this is a segregated space, but we wanted to say hello. They start walking up the aisle. Mr. Pye, in the projection, he motions, he's like, go away. He's kind of telling them to leave, but they can't see him because the light from the screen is shining straight at them. But then the projector turns off and then the curtains close. So Mr. Pye, Reginald, he's like, no. It's please don't hurt them. The doctor and Belinda start hearing tapping behind the curtain. And then in the aisle, she's like, is that tap dancing? And then a spotlight shines because there's a stage in front of the screen, in front of the curtains. And then you hear, ta-da! Mr. Ring-a-Ding pops out from behind the curtain, starts singing. When he finishes, he's like, what a fine and daddy day. And who might you be? So he's like, I'm the doctor, and this is Belinda. And who are you, good sir? Then he starts in a song again, I'm Mr. Ring-a-Ding, blah, blah. And he's like, no, cut. And he freezes. The doctor whispers, who am I saying cut to? I mean, you're a cartoon. Don't make me laugh. And he's like, you're a living cartoon. Belinda's like, how's it done? And she's like, that technology is way beyond anything 1952. They didn't have holograms. And the doctor's like, he's not a hologram. And she's like, hello, yes, he is. And the doctor's like, look at him. So he's kind of crouching, they're both kind of looking. He's like, you're not celluloid, you're made of light. Light come to life. And he's like, I'm beaming at ya. And the doctor's like, how do you exist? And then some violin plays sad music. He takes off his hat. He's really sad eyes. I wish I knew. I'm all alone. Nobody cares about Mr. Ring-a-Ding. And she's like, you got your own soundtrack. And then the doctor's like, 15 people went missing. And an record scratch. He's like, they vanished in this building. Do you know what happened to them? And then Mr. Ring-a-Ding's like, I appeared, they disappeared. If you solve that mystery, then poor lost souls, those poor lost souls might come back. And she's like, what are you a cartoon of? What are you supposed to be, a man? Don't make me laugh. She's like, you got a nose like a pig. Don't make me laugh. And why are you blue? Don't make me laugh. And the doctor's like, wait a minute. Is there a reason we shouldn't be making you laugh? And he's like, and what could that be, sir? The doctor tells Belinda to get away from him. And Ring-a-Ding's like, gee willikers, you're a cheery old coot or something like that. He's like, don't spoil my surprise. And the doctor's like, tell me, who are you? Don't make me laugh, because it sounds like this. Ha 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 ha. It was melodically laughs. On the marquee, the letters for the harvest bringer, some letters fall off, and now it says Harbinger. But inside, somehow the doctor knows. He's like, Harbinger? It's like, how could he see that? How would he know? Belinda's like, what does that mean? Who is he? And the doctor's like, the gods of chaos have harbingers. And then Ring-a-Ding's like, and I am Lux Imperator. The god of light, I am the dazzle at the heart of the pantheon, and the glint in the eyes of the mad. I am the last thing you see before you fall into the abyss. Doctor tells Belinda to run, and he's like, you think you can escape from me? You think you can escape from life itself? So then the movie starts up, he starts singing, and he's doing like the same in front of the screen. And he's like, dag nabbit, I've got no choice. So then they see like Reg up in the booth, and he tells them to run. The doctor's like, well, they go up there, he's like, well done. He's trapped, he's got to sing the song. They go up to the booth. He's like, Reginald Pye, thank you for the song. How long does it last? He's like, 1 minute, 36 seconds. You're supposed to get out. And doctor's like, Reggie Babes, please, we haven't got that long. What happened? He's like, I couldn't stop it. And the doctor's like, I'm not blaming you, but you play him movies in the dark? Reggie says, he says that it feeds him, or Miss Lux says it feeds him. Belinda's like, he's 2 feet tall. Why don't you just run away from him? Reg says, because he showed him so much joy. He's like, I was married for 20 years, and I'm telling you, sir, you never saw such a girl. I was the luckiest fellow in the whole wide world. And then one spring day, she went to cross the road, and I've been alone ever since, until he came. And doctor's like, what did he do? He's like, he brought her back. And he holds up like a film canister. There's a flashback to him watching kind of like a whole movie where she's like outside the house, and then he's like dancing with like a sort of like black and white version of her come to life. It's supposed to be like a film, whatever version came out. And he's like, and don't tell me she's not really there, because if that thing is real, then so is she. The doctor noticed the song has stopped. Belinda was like looking out the window, like into the theater, and he seems to be like kind of sweating and weak, like trying to walk up the aisle. She's like, that's really a god? And the doctor's like, it's all a game to him, and the game is deadly. And Reg is like, but tell me, how, sir? Did you say doctor? What gods are these, doc? Doctor's like, there are forces beyond this universe, and we think we are so clever, but we are like children. And when these vast creatures deign to look down on us, our entire reality is in danger. Belinda notices like some film strip hanging in the booth. And there's like 15, she's like 15 people, because like each frame is a person. And the doctor mentions that the police is searching, but they haven't looked in here. And she's like, so he photographed them? The doctor's like, no, that's them. He trapped them on film. The god of light turned them into an image. And one image moves and kind of like screams, and Belinda like shrinks back. Then there's a knock on the door. So Lux made it up. Doctor asks Reggie, like, how did he enter this world? Was it on the big screen? And Reggie's like, yes. Then Lux flattens, slides under the door, and then he asks Reg if he's giving away his secrets. And he mentions how flammable old film is. And his hand, like there's like a flame on his hand. And he's like, what if your poor lady wife just burned? So there's like fire in his hand. Reggie's like, no, please don't do that. Doctor's like, you will talk to me, and you will tell me how you entered this world. He's like, I'm a 2-dimensional character. You can't expect backstory. The doctor's like, I know how the gods work. You are honor bound to tell me. And Lux is like, if you know so much, you must be the one, enemy of the toy maker, which is Neil Patrick Harris, the decomposer of the maestro, the killer of the god of death. So that was the death was that beast thing that was like hanging onto the TARDIS. And the doctor's like, absolutely. So how do I stop you? And Belinda's like, he's not going to tell you that. The doctor's like, he is bound by the rules. So Lux is like, if I must then, doctor, just think, what have I not done? Doctor's like, that is a riddle. It is not an answer. And then Belinda, she's like, I'll tell you what you can do. Those 15 people, let them go. So it's like, why does she think she has any right to, or any power, any authority to tell a god what to do? And because here's the thing, it's like she's way too calm and accepting about things. Like she freaks out a little bit. You would think she'd be freaking out more. So she saw that he put people in a freaking film strip, and she's like not worried. He's like, but I have immortalized them on film. I can do the same for you. And doctor's like, no, don't. And then the two projectors rotate and like point at them, and he calls them his lovely ladies of the night. The doctor like interjects. He's like, don't take Belinda. He's like, you want me? And Lux is like, roll him. And she's like, doctor, what's going on? He's like, I think we're being animated. And then so now they're animated. We got animated Doctor and Belinda. And again, is this supposed to be? I just feel like it's kind of gimmicky or whatever. So they're standing there, and he says that he can't think because he has a 2-dimensional brain. And she's like, oh, it's so scary being around you. She's like, I don't think you're ever going to get me home. And then she kind of changes a little bit. she's like, like slightly 3D. And she's like, what happened? The doctor's like, you were sad and you became more three-dimensional. He's like, that's it. You acquired depth. Let me try. He's like, I didn't tell you everything back in the TARDIS. It's like, we can't ever go back to my planet because Gallifrey is a ruin. My people are dead. And she kind of gasped. He's like, I am the last of the Time Lords. And then it starts working. She's a little more rounded. And she's like, but what you're saying is there are no other Time Lords? No one's coming to help? That's it. And she's like, keep going. And he's like, and I'm terrified, Belinda, because I can't get you home. And it means I'm scared in case that means something really bad has happened in 2025. And she's like, I'm scared too. Poof. They're both real, but like in the cartoon world. And she's like, oh, my God, we did it. They hug. But we're still inside a cartoon. How do we get out? Doctor's like, we've been framed, which means if we break the frames, he pulls like a frame down, like he kind of reaches the top of like our screen. Then he pulls another and another, and she kind of joins them, so they start going faster, and then suddenly they're out. But before they can celebrate, this officer and that lady from the diner are there. The officer tells them not to move. And she's like, he's the one. She's like, I told you he was acting all suspicious. So it's like, wait, what a jerk is she? She's like, calling himself a doctor. She's like, but I don't trust him. The cop actually pulls out his gun. He tells them to raise their hands. It's like where you can see him. So Belinda does. The doctors are standing there, but then he raises his hand. And then annoying Belinda, seemingly forgetting the time period she's in, she's like, don't you dare point a gun at us. We've done nothing wrong. It's like, well, cops can point guns wherever they want in the current, in the present. So in 1952, you would think they can do whatever. So he's like, you're inside a space reserved for white folks. It's like, now, I don't know how things are done in the Caribbean, but they're different here. And she's like, I'm not Caribbean. The diner lady is like, he's the one. He's a troublemaker. He was asking about Tommy Lee. It's like, I'm telling you, he knows something. Belinda's like, he offered to help you, help you. The cop's like, I'll give you 10 seconds to explain yourself. And it's like, the fine lady's son went and disappeared. What do they know about it? Then the doctor's like, seriously? He's like, this is Miami-Dade County, and that is the uniform of the NYPD. Try harder. Then he pulls out the frame, and the stage is gone. So there's like a white background. So that was fake. They weren't really there. So he keeps pulling frames. He's like, Belinda's like, we're still inside a bloody film. She's like, I hate it when they do that. Then he's like, wait, this isn't going to work. Scrolling up and down doesn't work. We need to go out. And here's the other part where it's like, are they really going to do this? So they like look at the camera. They walk closer. They get right up to the camera or our screen or whatever. They kind of push. A glass falls over and breaks. They step out. So now they're in this room. And we see two Doctor Who nerds, or a guy and a lady on a sofa. The dude has like a Tom Baker scarf, like a multicolored scarf, and a unit hoodie. The lady has like a Matt Smith fez, and she has like a Cyberman Telos shirt. And then the lady's like, oh my gosh, it happened. And the dude's like, Doctor, is that you? And Doctor's like, And then there's also a lady in a wheelchair, and she has like a Meep shirt. The Fez lady's like, Belinda Chandra, like Miss Belinda Chandra? Belinda's like, how do you know that? The doctor's like, who are you? And the dude squeals like, we're your biggest fans. Fez lady's like, oh my God, you're real, you're real. Oh, this is so Galaxy Quest. Which is like, wait, what are you doing? And she's like, I knew it, I always knew. And she gets up, she hugs the doctor without even asking. Scarf dude gets up, hugs Belinda. Wheelchair lady, I don't know if that's offensive to call her, but she's in a wheelchair. She's like, well, I knew this would happen because it was leaked online. # RIP Doctor Who. So they're actually calling it Doctor Who. So then they sit on the sofa. They're like coffee mugs with tea, I guess. The doctor's like, let me get this straight. I'm not real. My life is fictional. And you just sit and you watch me on the TV? Fez lady, she's like, I've seen every single episode. And Chandra's like, but I'm so real. I'm completely real. I mean, I can taste this cup of tea. My mom and dad, I remember them. They're absolutely real. The wheelchair lady's like, your mom who plays a violin? And Belinda's like, how do you know that? And she's like, we were watching. And then Belinda's like, oh my God, I'm on TV? Doctor's like, go on then. What's your favorite adventure? Fez lady's like, blink. Scarf is like, definitely blink. Wheelchair is like, blink every time. And doctor's like, not the one with the goblins? Fez is like, blink. And he's like, I met the Beatles. Blink. Not the one where I'm standing on a landmine? That was brilliant. Blink. And Belinda's like, what happens in Blink? Scarf guy, he's like, it's a story where you're not allowed to blink. And she's like, well, that sounds like an absolute epic. So she doesn't even know the whole gist of it. Chair is like, gotta say though, this story right now, Mr. Ring-a-Ding, it's a bit obvious. The ending, telling us out loud the old film stock is explosive. I mean, okay, I get it. And the doctor's like, no, but that doesn't work. We can't blow up Lux because he's made of light. Chair's like, yeah, but what does he not do? And Belinda's like, well, we don't know. Tell us. Fez and Scarf are like, no, we can't. And she's like, I'm sorry. And Belinda's like, oh my God, you're so annoying. And Fez is like, a lot of people say that, but we don't care. Because the thing is, and doctor's like, are you okay? And Belinda's like, I didn't mean it. And Fez is like, no, we are a bit annoying. I know that. I'm wasting your time because the truth is, and the doctor's like, oh, Lizzie. Her name is Lizzie. And the Scarf is like, it's all right, we don't mind. And Belinda's like, what? And then Lizzie, Fez, she's like, you're not fictional. It's us, Belinda. We're not real. And Belinda's like, what do you mean? And she's like, we don't exist. And Belinda's like, but you do. And Chair's like, no, we're the sort of characters who don't have surnames. We're just part of the trap, so the creature can play with your minds. Scarf says, it's like, but we're so much cleverer than he is. We learned from the doctor, so we worked it out. And they say it's up to them to beat Lux for them, but it's time to go. It's time for the third act. So they're standing in front of TV. Belinda says, like, we'll keep watching. And Fez is like, you don't get it, do you? And Belinda's like, what don't I get? The doctor's like, they're not real. Once we move on, they will all blink out of existence. And Belinda's like, you mean you'll die? And Fez is like, it's not death. We just end. And Belinda's like, but that is death. And she's like, yeah, but we're not important, so it doesn't matter. Scarf's like, it was all worth it just to meet you. And Cher's like, and thanks to you, I met my two best friends. And Fez is like, maybe you can think of us every now and then. Now, go on, save the world. And she pulls the frame down, and it's like all white. And Belinda like starts crying. And she's like, they're right. We have to go back and fight this thing. But how do we do it? Doctor's like, there's only one more thing we can do. We stop the film. When the celluloid stops, it burns the heat. The heat from the film will catch it on fire. So they stand, they try holding up. It starts like burning in between them. The doctor's palm actually starts like singeing. And then they appear in the theater and they like fall, they're like up kind of up above. They fall like onto the stage. And she's like, wait, is this real this time? And he's like, it is, because, he has a burn on his hand. And she's like, oh, let me look at that, whatever. He's like, no, it's like, I'm okay. He's like, I've been saving a pocket of extra energy, just like this. I think he said for like past 5 generations, whatever. So he's been storing a little extra energy. And then he like holds his hand out and like, it heals over. Then Lux is there and says like, I like it. And the doctor's like, whatever you have planned, Lux, I've matched you. Now let Belinda and Reginald go. He's like, but you're the most absolute amazing creation, my doctor, sir. You have light within you that builds a body. No wonder the gods of the Pantheon fell, because they were saving you for me. Get him, girls. Film strip shoots out from the projectors, wrap around his wrist, start dragging him up the aisle. And then he's pinned against back on the wall, against like where the projection booth is. And Lux is like, what's the one thing I've never done? The projector turns on. It's like shining through the doctor. He's like, let the light of a Time Lord build me a body. Doesn't every cartoon want to be a man? That's what I never do. I never go outside, trapped in the dark. But the great out there holds such promise. So he says that he's seen it in the movies, and we see like with the nuclear bomb movie, atomic bomb. He's like, think of the fun I'll have. The blossom of nuclear light unfurling all across this tiny little world. And then energy starts beaming like through him, like the doctor, like there's like yellowish, like orangish energy starts going through him. So the doctor tells Belinda, he's like, remember them, the 3. He's like, they told us what to do. They told us the plot. And she's like, well, how does that help? And he's like, do you trust me? And she's like, she apologizes for not trusting before. She's like, but oh my gosh, yes, I trust you now. He's like, then trust me now more than ever because I am a Time Lord. She's like, what does that mean? He's like, it means I know what time it is. Lux starts getting bigger. He's like growing from the energy going through him. Belinda goes up to the film room, starts, she's where all the canisters are. She's like, she pulls them off the shelf, dumping on the floor. Lux is like, he's starting to turn 3D now. And she pounds on the projection booth, and he's like, they're clutching his wife's reel. And she's like, I need matches. She's like, I can smell the nicotine on your fingers, so I know you smoke. And then he's like, he doesn't want to open the door because he doesn't want to lose his wife. But then his wife is standing in front of him with a box of matches. And she's trying to like get him to do the right thing. He's like, I miss you so much. So he takes the matches, he opens the door, and he's like, pardon me, ma'am, I think you'd better run. He's like, you have to run. So he lights a match, then another and another. The film starts, going up in flames. The doctor's like, he's like almost dead. He's like almost drained of energy. Then Reginald closes the door, and then whoosh, explosion. Doctor falls, from being hung in front of a projection window, whatever. Lux sees the sunlight, and Belinda's like, what have we done? He's like, he feeds off the light, and the sunlight is more energy than he realized. So he keeps like growing and growing because doctor's like, it's more than like nuclear, whatever, fusion and all this stuff like that. So he's growing, but then instead of being 3D, he turns back into cartoon. They run outside, they're like out in the street, they can see Lux growing. He grows out of the theater, he's bigger and bigger, and then he's like out in space, and then he has tears in his eyes. He's like, it's so beautiful. He's looking at the creation and everything. He's like, I am everything and I am nothing. Goodbye. And he just, whatever. The doctor says that he became light without end. So it's like, he's gone. He's like, he's infinite now. He's everywhere, everything. She's like, so he is a god now. So he zaps the chains on the door. The kid and like others, all the people walk out. The diner kid's like, it's all 15. The diner lady, she's like looking, and she sees her Tommy Lee. So he goes, and the diner kid's like, you've been gone 3 months. And then I'm pretty sure Mrs. Poole comes out, and she says to Tommy Lee and his mom, and she's like, if you're looking for a good show, I recommend this one. So it's like, how is she there in 1952 and still old? So the TARDIS leaves, and she's like, gotta warn you, limited run only, show ends May the 24th. And then Tommy's like, wait, how did they do that? Special effects in a movie? And Mrs. Poole's like, trick of the light. The credits roll. You hear the 3 fans like talking about how the episode was like that. And then we actually see them there. They're like, we're still here. Ah! They scream with excitement. And that's the end. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know if I'm just nitpicking or whatever. I like I said, I feel like there's some good parts, but some parts, I don't know. So it was fine. It was kind of fun, but yeah. So that was Doctor Who, second episode. We'll see what happens next week. All right, The Last of Us, season 2, episode 2, Through the Valley. Holy crap, man! This episode. All right, let's just get it caught me off guard. So an alarm goes off. Abby is like walking down the hall with a gun, and someone's like, "He's dead," and she's like, "Who?" And then Abby's she hates Joel. She wants to kill Joel. So someone's like, "He's dead," and she's like, "Who?" And then she says that she's like, "I don't know you," and it turns out it's herself. So Abby, like her older self, is talking to her, and she's like, "Don't go in there." It's like his brains are on the floor. So Abby, walking with the gun, she's like, "You're lying." And an older Abby just like shakes her head, and then you hear a young Abby cry out. So she was sleeping. She was a nightmare, a dream. She wakes up. She's like some like lodge or something like that, just like sleeping bags on the floor. Her friends are there. And they know that, so they're close to the town. We saw them last episode. They know that they go out on patrols nearby, but then they're all in shock because it's daylight and they can see this in the distance is a city. And one's like, I thought it was just a colony or something like that, but because they couldn't tell in dark, they just knew that they had some lights. But it's like they have power generators, and one says like, those aren't the proms. They have 4 main gates, and each gate has like guards and towers. They have mounted patrols. They're all heavily armed. They have overlapping routes. They're trained. They also have dogs. And this dude says, they're supposed to get past all that. They still don't know where Joel is in there. And Abby suggests that they just ambush a patrol, tie them up, and make them tell them where Joel is. And a dude is like, make them. He questions that. This other, I don't know their names, and I don't know if it really matters. I mean, maybe if he played the game, I don't even know if they're all in there or whatever. But this other lady's like, yeah, we said that we weren't going to hurt anyone else. And Abby's like, well, we're going to bluff. We're not going to actually hurt anyone. And then dude's like, well, what if they don't talk? Then what? And then, he's like, but this other guy's like, well, he might be starting to form a plan. He might have something in mind. So Abby goes out for the next watch. It's cold, it's windy, it's snowy, because they're all up on this, mountain, looking down. Once she's out, the other guy asks the dude, he's like, do you really have a plan or not? And he's like, I do. The plan is to convince her to go back. Because, if they don't, the only people getting killed out here is them. So then Ellie's sleeping. There's like loud and angry knocks at her door. She's in bed, so she gets up. And I'm like, man, if Joel's knocking on her door like that, it's like it turns out it's Jesse. And she answers the door. He's like, wow, you look like spit. And she's like, what do you want? He's like, I want you to fulfill your obligation to the community of Jackson Hole, Wyoming. He's like, 8 a.m. patrol. She's like, it's 8? And he's like, no, it's 7:30. But you're riding with me, and I like to be on time. So she's like, all right, give me a minute to get changed. She tries closing the door on him, but he stops her. He's like, I heard you had quite the night after I left. And then she's like, because he was dating Dina, but they broke up because they break up a lot, whatever. So Ellie's like, yeah, she kissed me. It was just Dina being Dina. She was high. She probably won't even remember it. And then Jesse's like, I was talking about the fight you had with Seth and Joel. He's like, you kissed her? And Ellie's like, no. He's like, wow, Ellie, come on. It's like, we've been broken up 1 week, and you made a move on her? And Ellie's like, I didn't. He's like, seriously? And Ellie's like, Dina, it didn't mean anything. She was probably just trying to make you jealous. It didn't mean anything. It's like, I wouldn't do that to you. And he's like, I'm screwing with you, man. It's like, I already know. It's like, I don't care. Come on, get dressed. And she's like, you're the worst. In town, the council put people on alert. Kyle and Max found a pair of dead infected. They were frozen stiff. They didn't think nothing of it until 30 live ones broke through from underneath the corpses. So they're using their own dead as like insulation. And now they're thinking that they don't know how many are underneath the snow. There could be 30, there could be 1,000. And they also, like someone told the council, a ghost story about the world's smartest infected, and now everybody's spooked out of their minds. And Ellie's like, it wasn't a ghost story. It's like, no offense. She's like, I'm going to do my patrol with Joel. And then Jesse's like, yes, offense, because that's the one person you've been avoiding like the plague. And Ellie's like, well, we're better now, okay? And he's like, as of when? Because as of last night. And she's like, yeah, I know what happened last night. Can you shut the fudge? And she's like, my poop with Joel is complicated. I know that from the outside. It probably looks really bad. It has been really bad. But I'm still me, and he's still Joel, and nothing's ever going to change that, ever. So you can all stop talking about us, worrying about us, and thinking about us, all right? He's like, so you two hashed it out? And then she's like, so I'm going to go patrol with him like daddy-daughter day, all right? And Jesse's like, he already went out. And she's like, what? With who? He's like, Dina. It's like, they left an hour ago. And then he's like, for what it's worth, he wanted to go with you, but he said that we should let you sleep. He's like, let's hit the restaurant. She's like, I'm not hungry. He's like, well, Maria wants to talk to you. Inside, Tommy's like talking to everyone about expecting the worst, hoping for the best, something. They want to plan, they have if they get attacked by an infected. When he's done, Maria takes Ellie aside. She brings her to Seth, and he's behind the counter, like whatever, in like the kitchen part. And she tries turning and leaving, but Maria tells her stay. So she's like, Seth, you have something to say? He's like, yeah, because he called Ellie and Dina dykes when they were kissing. So he's like, so last night I obviously had a few too many. And Ellie's like, it happens to everyone. People get drunk and say awful poop that they never thought before. And Maria's like, Ellie? And Seth's like, no, that's fair. He's like, I shouldn't have said it. I shouldn't even thought it. He's like, I'm sorry. He's like, I made you two some sandwiches if you're going out there. They're steak. And she's like, And Maria takes the sandwiches, hands them to Jesse. Jesse's like, thanks. And then Seth's like, well, be safe out there. And she's like, yep. And she turns and leaves. Outside the gate, she notices like a big storm cloud. They're on their horses. And Jesse's like, oh, that'll be over the mountains. So it's like, nothing for them to worry about. So then Abby, since she's higher up, it's freezing in the wind. She's shaking. And then she's like, fudge it. And she picks up her rifle. But then she hears something and she ducks behind a rock. And she looks at binoculars. She sees two people on horses. So it's like, who's she seeing? Tommy and the others are moving ammo like up higher, and they're someone radios from the mountaintop patrol. Visibility is dropping, so they're returning, and he kind of can't really hear. Then so he tells someone, he's like in the radio room, he's like, crank it with the signal. He's like, call everyone back in. Jesse can barely hear the call, and he says that he thinks that they're like too far out to make it back. And they're like in this neighborhood area, so he radios that he knows the spot where they can go. They put the horses like kind of like an auto garage, and there's like hay inside. Then he tells Ellie that they'll be fine once they eat the horses. So they go across the street, and I think it's a 7-Eleven. There's a bunch of like marijuana in there, like weed growing. And Ellie's like, how do you know about this place? And he's like, Eugene, that was the therapist's husband that apparently Joel killed. He's like, he was his first patrol partner. So he showed it to him. He said he found it like a year earlier, swore Jesse to secrecy. He said Maria wouldn't approve of his farming. And Ellie finds a firefly pendant. The back has his name, Eugene Linden 000314. And she's like, Eugene was a firefly? And Jesse's like, yep. Just early on, though, he quit back in 2010. And she's like, how come? Jesse's like, he said he was tired of killing people. He was in Vietnam. That was a raw deal. And then, Joel having to put him down, and she like shrugs. He's like, it's a shame. Guy makes it through a war, ends up going out like that. He's like, what are you going to do? Couldn't be saved. And she's like, yeah. Abby's climbing down to get a closer look at the two on the horse. So obviously it's not Ellie and Jesse. She tries climbing down this big hill on her belly. She's like kicking her feet to like get like a foothold, like kick into the snow. But then a chunk of snow breaks and she goes sliding and she screams out. It's kind of funny because we don't like Abby, I'm assuming. She tumbles a bit and stuff like that. When she stops and looks up, there's a hand like sticking up out of the snow. She's like on a pile of bodies, huge pile of bodies. So are the infected beneath, like what Jesse was saying? She walks and she sees like an infected head, and then the head is starting to move. The snow starts moving. Infected start digging their way up like a lot. So she runs. They're running after her. It's like an avalanche of like infected just like following her. She makes it to like a wall. She jumps up and she like reaches for a ladder. She's able to climb over, get inside. She walks behind a building, like there's like really tight between like a building and a fence, and then push, they start like crashing up against the fence, and they start pushing the fence over, and then she's practically like pinned between like the ground and the fence, and she's like kind of crawling under the fence. One kind of breaks the links through, like kind of busts through, grabs her from behind, and it's like on top of her, and then a gun goes to his head, and blows it, the infected away, and you hear someone yell, "Give me your hand." It's Joel. It's like, oh crap. It's like, is this convenient? What's going on? He's like, can you run? And she's like, yeah. He's like, run. He like shoots some, leads her to this building, like shuts the door, and someone calls out to Joel, and he goes up to Abby. He's like, you good? He's like, hey kid, you good? And she's like, yeah, I'm good. Because she's kind of like in shock. And he's like, any bites? And then she like looks suspicious, she like shakes his head. He's like, let's go. So infected are trying to like bust down the door. And he's like, now. And so Dina's in there. Dina's like, what do we do? He's like, we leave. And she's like, back to Jackson? It's like, it's too far. We'll freeze before we get halfway. He's like, I'm aware. And she's like, well, where the fudge did they even come from? And then Dina looks at Abby. She's like, where did you come from? And Abby's like, the mountain. And then there's like crash, bang, like bang. Then she's like, okay, Joel, if we stay here, we die. If we go out there, we die. And he's like, I don't know. It's like, I'm thinking. And then Dina's like, the lodge. It's like, my friends and I are holed up in a lodge halfway up the mountain. It's not far. The infected are down here. Maybe there aren't any more up there. And he's like, bang, bang, bang. And Joel's like, fudge it. It's all we got. He's like, are your friends armed? And she's like, yeah. He's like, good. We're going to need them. It's like, get on. So the infected bust in just as they're heading out on their horses. Then back in the town, Tommy he checks with the radio lady. She says that everyone's checked in except Joel and Dina. And he's like, well, where are they? And she says that she doesn't know. And he's like, well, try again. So they're riding, more infected pop up. There's like activity by like you see the busted pipe, whatever, with the weird things growing in there, the roots or whatever. In town, Lookout sees infected coming. So they're like, ring the bell. Tommy like rides and tells people to get off the street. Women and children, they go downstairs and like barricade. He's, rounds up the wall. Or like on the wall, these like things unfold. At first I thought they were spikes, but they're actually kind of like ramps because they're going to like unroll like these big barrels. So some go up high, they're armed with like heavy artillery. Some like, you see like some people have like flamethrowers that they put on. Tommy's like, he's out, it's like, Jackson Hole, get ready. They start slamming into the wall. They start like rolling out these metal barrels on the ramps that they unfolded. So it knocks them over, and they're filled. It's like, are they filled with water? No, they're filled with gas. So they like shoot, and then some gas. It doesn't go up in flames. It just starts like kind of like pouring out, like trickling out. But then someone shoots one, whoosh, big flames. Explosion. Infected are on fire. Some continued forward. Some are like trying to climb the wall. So, they're burning, but it's not affecting them right away. Up the mountain, Joel and Dina see like the flames and smoke. Joel yells that he has to go back, but Abby cuts him off, says like they're almost there. Her friends have ammo and blankets and they can go and help. The infected, they start going off to the side, and Tommy sees a giant infected. What do they call, like bloaters? There's a big dude, a big infected. I mean, this thing is massive. So he's like, they're gonna breach. He's like, get ready. He puts on like a flamethrower, like backpack thing. Maria and Tommy like make eye contact. Then the giant dude busts a hole through. Infected start like crawling through. Those on top are like shooting. There's two guys with like flamethrowers, because there's four people, like Tommy and three others. Two of them run away. They're like no. So Tommy and the other dude, they stay in the street. Infected start going inside, busting through the buildings. Some like make it to the stairs because now they're starting to pop up on the roof where there's shooters. So some people are actually shooting across from other roofs to like try to help them. The bloater guy starts heading towards where Maria is. So Tommy yells. He's like shooting. He gets his attention. He runs. In fact, they make it to Maria's rooftop. There's like shooting. Some people get like taken. Tommy ends up in a dead end. There's like nowhere for him to go. The big dude comes at him. He starts shooting flames. It staggers back, but it keeps moving. He repositions to another place, shoots some more, but you can see they show like the gauge on his flamethrower thing. He's running out of gas, and then he's like pinned against the wall, and it comes at him. So he's like on his butt. He like fell back. It's coming at him, but then it falls to its knees, and then it falls over. So I guess it finally died from getting burned. So I was like, at this point, I was like, okay, we didn't have Tommy through like most of the first episode, Diego Luna. And I'm like, you can't like kill him now because we just got him back. And so he survived. But then, Maria's out in the streets. Then they open the dog kennels. And Tommy's like walking on the streets, he's shooting at infected, hears the dogs, they start attacking, and they go, I loved seeing these dogs. They were awesome. I mean, these like German Shepherd, whatever they were, but they just run. And they're, oh man, I hope they're treated well, but they run past all the human. Somehow they're trained to go for an infected. They just like jump up at them and they're like pinning them down, just like ripping out their throats. And it's vicious and cruel, whatever. But man, these dogs are majestic, and it's like so cool to see them taking out these like horrible monsters. At the lodge, Abby's friends, they yell for Abby. They hear horses, and she yells for them to get inside. They put a blanket over Abby, and because it's like so cold out there, like almost frostbite or whatever. So she quietly says to dude, she's like, help them too, because he's like helping Abby. So it's like, so I guess Abby's having a change of heart because Joel friggin' saved her. So she's like, okay, now that she's face to face, does she know who he is? She heard, she's got to know, right? But she's like, help them too. This other lady like helps Dina warm up, says that, they have to raise her temperature. And Dina sees like a wolf patch on her backpack. She's like, who are you? And at first I was like, wait, I watched it the second time. I was like, that's not a firefly thing. It's something else. And Joel says, grab blankets, and they head out in 3 minutes because he wants to go out back to the town. And Abby says, she's like, I'm Abby. She's like, this is Nora, Manny, Owen, and Mel. And Joel's kind of like, whatever. He tries like radioing the town. He's got a walkie-talkie. And Abby tells the other lady, this is Dina. And then she's like, and he is Joel. So then that's her saying to the other dude, puts a gun to Dina's head. And she's like, Joel. He turns around and they say, it's like, we're not going to hurt her if you cooperate. It's like, we're just going to put her to sleep for a while. We're going to take her weapons. It's probably best for her. So they take her weapons, take the radio from Joel and his gun. And Abby, again, she said it's best for her. She doesn't see this, or, she's not there or whatever. And then she says to the other lady, she's like, do it. And she's just like standing there. And Abby's like, if you don't do it, I'm going to smash her in the fudging head. And Joel's like, you want to rob us? Fine. It's like, take what you want. And she's like, do we look like raiders to you? So Abby takes off her jacket. Joel looks somewhere. He's like, no. And she's like, what do we look like? And so it's like, she's all tough now after Joel saved her butt, but she was like all like speechless and in shock. But so it's like, what do we look like? And Joel's like, military. He's like, fireflies? And she's like, used to be. Haven't you heard? There are no more fireflies. They're all gone. And oh God, she's so annoying. The other lady like gets a syringe ready for Dina. She's like struggling. And this lady, I think this was Mel. She's like, I'm just going to put you to sleep for an hour. Like, that's all. It's like, I promise. And she repeats to Joel while looking at, or the promise when she looks at Joel. She's like, I promise. So she's injected. She goes down right away. And she's like, see, breathing. And Abby's like, that's a nice scar you have on your temple there. I'd say you're about, 6 feet, in your 60s now? You actually are pretty handsome. Congrats on that. Which is like, oh my gosh, she's so lame. And she's like, I'm going to give you one chance to tell the truth, Joel. If you do, let's face it, we'll all know. I'll let her live. And the other lady's like, wait, Abby? And she's like, shut up. And she's like, where was the last place you saw the fireflies? He's like, Salt Lake. And she's like, oh, at least you're honest. And he looks out the window at the smoke from the town. He's like, I saved your life. And she's like, what life? So she turns and she shoots him with her rifle. He goes down and yells in pain. At first I was like, wait, where does she shoot him? Because he goes, he gets pushed back and falls down. So then it's like, wait, did he get shot in the leg? Because at first I thought he got shot in the gut or something like that. I was like, that you don't want a gut wound. So I think he shot in the leg. And the others look uneasy. And she's like, tourniquet him. So then the dude, he's like, Mel, just do what we came to do. So Mel takes off her belt and puts it around his leg. So it looks like he was shot in the knee, which is like, okay, so now he's going to have a limp. All right. So she tightens it and he like screams, and Abby smiles and crouches. She's so annoying. She's like, you're tough. I guess you probably have to be killing all those people. Do you know how many people you killed that day? Did you count as you went, or I guess maybe it just didn't matter. But okay, so again, I'm assuming this is when he went to save Ellie. They were going to kill Ellie and dissect her or whatever. So he goes in there. They were going to stop him. He's like, okay, I'm getting her out of here. Anyone in my way is getting plowed. So she's like, 18 soldiers and 1 doctor. You remember that one? An unarmed doctor you shot in the head? And he like thinks back, and you see like a scene from the operating room. He walks in, and she's like, yeah, that was my dad. Guess you probably already figured. The nurses said you barely even looked at him when you pulled the trigger. And then you just walked right past his body and out the door. But I looked at him. I saw him. I was 19. I've been in the militia for 5 years now. Seattle. I'd warn you not to go there, but little chance of that. Anyway, our commander trained us to follow a code. We don't kill people that can't defend themselves. And then she weirdly puts her hand on his temple, kind of like brushes hair. It's like, what are you doing? So she's like, right now, that's you. But I am going to kill you because it doesn't matter if you have a code like me or if you're a lawless piece of poop like you. But he was doing something. She's like, there are some things everyone agrees are just fudging wrong. And then she's like, looks up and there's like golf clubs. And she like sheds a tear. She gets up. It's funny. I've waited for so long. And Joel cuts her up. Oh, just shut the fudge up and do it already. So she tried to, I don't know, she chooses a 9-iron or something, pulls out a golf club, walks to him, like, oh, you're so cool. She's just like kind of strutting on her. She's like, you stupid old man, you don't get to rush this. The others are staring at her. It's like kind of awkward. She swings down on his blasted knee. He screams. Mel and the one dude, they like close their eyes, like they don't want to look at this. And then she swings down again. And then a third time. It's like, ugh. So Ellie, now, for some reason, she's on her horse. I don't know what made her go out. She sees the smoke from the town, but then she sees like a trail of footprints going up the mountain. And it's like, wait, where's Jesse? I feel like I missed something. Abby's like, then she's like down. She's punching Joel over and over again in the face. He's unconscious on the floor. His face is puffy, bloody, and bruised. And the dude's like, Abby. And she's like screaming as she punches. She's like, Abby, another punch. Then Abby sees Joel and Dina's horses outside. She sees the lodge. She walks in quietly with a gun because they're like upstairs. Then she hears Abby like upstairs. She creeps up. The dude's like, that's enough. Abby's still screaming. Ellie opens the door. She sees Abby over Joel's bloody body. Her eyes go wide. She moves to shoot, but unfortunately, the other guy was like standing off to the side. He pushes her arm up as she shoots, so shoots up. And then he like grabs her, whips her down, and she like lashes back with something, like slices his hand, and he like curses. Another person like pins her down, and then so like two people pin her down. The cut guy starts cursing. He wants to kick her, but the main dude was like, he like stops him, and then she calls out Joel's name. She's like, Joel. She's like, Joel. She's like, get up, Joel, fudging, get up. But he looks like he's just so mashed potatoes. So then the dude goes up to Abby. He's like, end it. And Ellie's like, Joel, get up, please get up, fudging, get up. And then we see Joel's head kind of lifts a little tiny bit. Abby picks like up she must have broken the golf club because it's like the metal is like, it's sharp. So she has a golf club and Ellie's like, please don't do it, please. And then Abby jabs the busted club down into his neck. And I was like, wait, she didn't jab it that far, that hard. He's going to be okay, right? Because it's just jabbed in there. And like, did she hit an artery or anything? And Ellie just like quietly sobs and she's looking at Abby, but Joel's not moving. And Ellie's like, I'm going to kill you. You're going to die. You're going to fudging die. The guy that got cut, he's such a baby. He walks over and kicks her in the gut. They all clear out. And Allie, he kicked her hard. So she crawls over to Joel. She pulls the club out and she takes his hand and she lays like kind of cheek to cheek on him. And it's like an overhead shot of you just see like blood on the floor and them there. So then the 5 losers walk outside. And you see another horse rides up to the lodge. They're gone. The town, we see shots of town. They're cleaning up any remaining infected, like shooting them. Tommy and Maria, they survived, so they hug in the street. Then we see Jesse rides with Ellie. Dina's riding on the other horse, and Ellie looks back. They're dragging Joe's body wrapped up. I was like, man, because stupid me. I was like, they're not going to kill Joel. They're not going to kill Pedro Pascal. But he wasn't moving. And then his body is all wrapped up and there's blood stains. So he's dead. I was like, they killed Joel? I was like, really? Seriously? 2 episodes into the 2nd season? Does that mean he's done with the show? I thought he's the main dude for... Oh my God. And I was just I just could not believe that. I was so shocked.
And I can't imagine if this happens in the game. I can't even imagine what that would be like. And it's just like, oh man. So now it's and this is a stupid thing. It's the same thing all over again. So Abby is mad at Joel because Joel killed her father, and then now Ellie, she's gonna be mad at Abby because Abby killed her father, basically. And yeah, and the difference is, I feel like Ellie's a little more like more of a wild card. So yeah, it's going to be interesting if when she finally catches up with Abby. Abby's got the 5 years of militia training. Ellie's got Joel training. I don't know how that would go, but Abby, she kind of seems like a little wimp. You know, she was like freaking out, and it's like, okay, on all this time you've never come across any infected, but she was like, she didn't know what to do. That was The Last of Us episode 2. But part of me is like, I don't want to watch this anymore. I want to quit the show. Oh, man. All right, now Star Wars Andor, or is it just called Andor? I always go back and forth. I don't know, because they just say Andor on the screen. They don't even say Star Wars, but it's Star Wars Andor. That's what I'm going to call it. Season 2, episode 1. 1 year later, it's taking a jump. So here's the thing. I don't know how I feel. So I feel like I'm a little bitter about this 3 episode things, and I know what. Shut up, get over it. But it's the same thing with the first show. So this is a very well made show, and I kind of look at it, it's like, what? How do I feel about this? And I find what's interesting. So as we all know, I'm sure we're aware, there are some nasty Star Wars fans. You know, I like to feel I'm a true Star Wars, and you know, we're all like, oh, we're all the best fan in the world. I saw I've seen all the movies in the theater. I saw the first, you know, I'm old. I saw the first movie in the theaters, and you know, I grew up. I saw the holiday special when it aired. I saw it the one time it aired, right? That it only aired once, and they're like never again. So I had action figures. You know, I love Star Wars. But some people are just so nasty, and some people are like, oh, Disney's ruining Star Wars and everything. You know, so we have all that. And again, people are entitled to like what they like. They don't have to be so nasty about it. And, you know, because even like with The Last of Us, you know, some people are review bombing it because they don't like Bella Ramsey, which is just so stupid. It's like, you should be happy. This is an amazing show. So, you know, we look at like the last Star Wars show, you know, it got review bombed and people didn't like it. I liked it. I thought, I mean, it wasn't perfect. There are definite problems, but I was interesting. It's like, where's the show going? And like stuff that was being presented, and we're seeing some stuff for the first time. Now with Andor, and it's the same thing, you know, high Rotten Tomatoes, you know, scores for these episodes that came out for season 2, however many the reviewers saw. I don't know how many movies or how many episodes they saw, because I didn't read any reviews. And with the first season, I think it was the same thing. People liked the show. I can appreciate the show, but sometimes I feel like the show is a little slow. And I don't want to say a little boring, but some parts are like, okay, but I can appreciate what they're doing. I don't think I would necessarily say it's boring, but you know, with the slow, there's a lot of detail, something. And what's cool is we see a lot of the mechanics. And I think that's the main difference between this show and some of the other shows. The other shows kind of go for like flashy stuff, you know, lightsabers, and you know, a lot of that. Where Andor it's more about the political structure, and you know, because we're seeing like the empire growing, and we're seeing the rebellion growing, and you know, like it's just a covert aspect of it. You know, like how is this all going to lead into like Rogue One and everything? So there's a lot of cool things, but it is very slow, and there's like. One of the problems I have is there's like so many characters. I'm just like, okay, what is your name again? I don't know what your name is. And I kind of, I think, okay, I kind of remember what you're involved with the rebellion. Wait, okay, yeah, you're doing this. You're working with that person. And wait, you know, you're Mon Mothma's cousin, right? And it's just trying to remember everything. But yeah, that's the thing, is it's like, it's just kind of slow. And so I only saw 2 episodes. One thing that annoys me is I saw a spoiler, which I'm assuming is what happens in the 3rd episode, something that happens to one of the characters. And it just annoyed me so much. I mean, it was posted. I think the article was posted like maybe a day or two after the 3 episodes dropped. But it's like spoiler in the title. I mean, are you ridiculous? Do you not know how to run a website? That you want to tease things, but and to write an article to go in that direction, and it's like, yeah, it's whatever. If the actor involved, because I didn't click on it, if the actor involved talked about how things were handled, okay, that's important stuff to hear. But oh my gosh, let's go into it. So 2 episodes. I'm gonna try to go fast. I don't know how this is gonna go. So 1 year later, we're BBY 4 years before. We see it. I thought it was a TIE interceptor, but I guess it's actually TIE Avenger, because it's the wings in the back are different. There's this like lady inspecting it. She enters some diagnostic. So then we're on planet CNR. It's like this test facility. The lady goes into this room. Andor's in there. So the lady's name's Nia. I don't know if that matters. And he asks how it looks. She says it's prepped for a test flight in the morning. She gives him his password. So I guess he's posing as a test pilot. How did he get there? We don't know. I guess he's just that slick. And she's nervous because she's like, she could never come back here. She had fun here. And she asks, if she dies tonight, was it worth it? And, because he's done this before, he must have thought about it. And he's like, this makes it worth it. This right now. It's like, you made this decision long ago. The Empire can't win. And then, so he's about to do something. She's like, I need a 12-minute head start. He's like, that'll be enough? And she's like, yeah. So then he goes to the hangar. There's a little droid that was there that she put like her data pad on. He shoots a droid. It's like, what, really? He had a droid. And he's like, just so mean. He goes inside the TIE. He's kind of confused. He's like looking at the cockpit. He's like, the controls are totally different. He sits in a chair and like some lights come up. The chair kind of moves and like, the back kind of goes up. He primes like I think the guns and the torpedoes. He goes to launch, but then he slams he goes backwards, slams into the wall behind him. Then an alarm goes off. The hangar door looks like it's starting to shut or something like that. And then he's kind of flying sideways, and he's like hitting the ceiling. Some stormtroopers come in, and they're like, what's going on? They start like shooting. He manages to find the gun. He shoots back, mows him down with this like, it's like not even like not a pew 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 pew. It's a laser. See, you get like sound effects with this too. Just like cuts him up. And then there's this other trooper. I feel like I should have like rewound it or paused it or something like that. I don't know what kind of stormtrooper this is. I'm always fascinated with the different types of stormtroopers. And as I said before, my favorite for some reason is the snow trooper. I don't know why. I just really love the snow troopers. So this guy, he kind of has like some furry stuff. He's got this big bazooka, and then he's like he tries shooting, but nothing happens. And then Andor, he's like nothing happens. But then he looks down to control, looks up. There's a huge hole in the wall where the trooper was. So this is like some massive laser just must have obliterated the stormtrooper. So then we see like from the outside, he's shooting some more. He blasts through the wall. And then he slides, he hits the ground. It's I've never seen a TIE fighter tie anything like just taking it. This thing is like really tough. I always saw them as like super delicate and everything with their wings. But he's like hitting bouncing off the ground practically, and he's like on that kind of edge of a cliff. Then the engine's cut out. A couple more ships are like headed his way now, and he sees them. So he tries like starting it back up. The other ships start shooting. He falls over the cliff, and then he finally gets it back on. Bangs into like some cliffside. He's being chased. He's like flying through a canyon. He manages to get away. Then we see somewhere else. There's like some kind of like a compound or a house or something like that. There's like some weird looking dude. He's like kind of freaky. He pulls a sheet off of Bix. So maybe that's something that happened before. Okay, so maybe it wasn't that much of a spoiler. I don't know. Maybe it wasn't a spoiler. But she starts screaming, and then so she's dreaming. So then this dude Brasso, he's like trying to wake her up, and he's like, "You're okay. You're safe." The woman, I'm assuming it's his wife, Talia. She tells her it's okay. This kid comes in. He's like, what happened? Then B2 EMO, Cassian's Andor's droid's like, she had another dream. And
he's like, Cassian will want to know. But Brasso's like, she can deal with that. BMO says like, he said, I think he said that he should be home tomorrow or something like that. So Andor is supposed to be coming. Then on, I think it's Chandrilia, the Mothma estate. So Lita, Mon Mothma, I think that's Mon Mothma's daughter, right? She's leading some maids along and making them keep their eyes closed. They're all going, down the halls. They reach this room, and she's like, "You can look now." There's like a big white gown, like it's a wedding dress on display. Because what I forgot at the beginning is Mon Mothma agreed to this arranged marriage with this dude because they were losing a lot of money because she was like funding money to the rebellion and stuff like that. So she's working with this like kind of shady business dude, and they're supposed to like pair up their kids, which is unfortunate. So then we see, like I say, people arriving, I guess for the wedding. Mon Mothma is like greeting them. This dude comes up to her, says Governor Clavin has a new ship, and they have limited space on docking platforms, so that they've taken 2 spots and don't seem too eager to move. Sordo, this other guy, comes up. She says there's parking problems. The governor's eagle apparently won't fit in her lot. So then she goes off. She's looking concerned over an arrival. So we see her friend Tay is there. And then so she goes and talks to Luthen. It's like, why is Luthen there? And she's like, what are you doing here? And he says, he's like, that's a secret. So then Luthen goes off and asks this lady about Cassian. Was it, what's her name? He might have been talking, might have been Clea, who works at the antique. I can't remember if he was talking to her or not. Luthen grumbles that they should have heard from him by now, but she mentions that they can't transmit from there because it's too risky and like that. He's like, well, keep listening. Then on Mina Ray, so we see Bix is out in a field. It's like kind of like these big wheat fields. There's some big machinery. This kid Willman, he's there too. Then this lady Bila comes up with water, so she must be Willman's girlfriend. She likes him or something like that, because Bix kind of like jokes like, "Oh, she's coming here and she's probably got water." But then they notice this big craft like hovering in the sky, and Bix is like, what's that? And Bila says that she's not sure. Willman's like, it's Imperial. Bix asks if they've seen it before. Bila's like, well, maybe once or twice. Andor flies the tie. He lands in his forest clearing. He gets out. He calls out the Porco. It's like, Porco. And then someone yells, he's like, you can stop right there. You got 15 blasters pointing at you. And others like, don't tell him that. Don't. And they're like, well, he should know that he's surrounded. And they're like, but he doesn't need to know how many. There's like, the actual number. So there's these 2 guys, they're arguing, like Barty and I think it was Gardus or whatever gang, I don't know. They continue arguing. So I don't even think it matters their names. I'm just what I'm going to say. He's like, I'm not Imperial. And they're like, throw it on your blaster and get on the ground. At the Malthian Divide, there's a room full of Imperial. Director Orson Krennic, so Krennic, Ben Mendelsohn, he says that there's no record of them here. Their droids will be data wiped. So Dedra Miro, she's there. She's a lady that like got promoted and everything like that. Krennic says that this room is now the tightest of closed circles. Any security violation will be brought to the Emperor's personal attention. So they showed this video like on a projector, the Gorman Valley, talk about the spiders and their silk and like the whatever clothing that they make. Krennic stops the video, says Corman is of great interest to the Empire. So it's like, okay, that's weird. Andor complains that they've ruined his ship. He's like, where's Porco? But he's told by Gertis, whatever, to shut up. So he's cuffed. He's chained, whatever, behind his back. They think he's an Imperial. Andor's like, I'm here to meet a friend. And he's like, it's a stolen ship. He's like, there's supposed to be another pilot to take it forward. And the guy with the gun, he's like, it's stolen for who? And Andor's like, the rebellion. And then they're like, whose rebellion? And Andor's like, where's a pilot that I was supposed to meet? They say that his friend was not friendly, and he took a shot at them, and he tried to make a run for it. This lady, Rika, she's like, he's lying anyways. And she's like, this guy's a test pilot, because I guess by his uniform, whatever. They all kind of groan. They turned their guns on him. Krennic says that he doubts anyone here is unaware of the difficulties they've had making the Emperor's dream of energy independence a reality. They say that he hears the stories and rumors of delays and setbacks, groveling for Senate funding. He suggested that he reminded him that the energy initiative remains the centerpiece of his agenda. So access to stable, unlimited power will transform the galactic economy and solidify imperial authority. So this like all this stuff. This is what makes the show almost a little dry in a way, but it's also very technical. But that technical is kind of a good thing because it's not just like overlooking stuff. It's like all this stuff exists. That's why I'm just torn like about the show. It's like this cool that they're adding all this immense detail, but sometimes I feel like this. I don't think we need all this detail. So he's like, it turns out that the spiders aren't the most unique things in Gorman. There's a mineral on the ground. So he tells this doctor dude to take over. He starts talking. There's this deep substance foliated calcite. And Krennic says that synthetic calcite alternatives, calcite substitute. So they promise to delivery in 3 years, but the delivery is dependent on some version of Gorman calcite to coat the reactor lenses. So it must be for the Death Star, right? And should they fail to find any alternatives, they'll have to control Gorman with a hand firm enough to silence any resistance, and they've been selected to help plan for that possibility. Rika says that there's lights on the tie, but there's no power. She doesn't understand. She's like, where's this coming from? And she's like, nothing's where it's supposed to be. And she looks at Andor, and then he's like, I wouldn't touch that. Some guy's barred. He's like, what is it? And Andor's like, I'm not sure. Rika points to another panel. She's like, what's that? He's like, no clue. And this dude, I think this is Gertis, he's like, well, how'd you get here? And Andor's like, I guess it's my lucky day. And then this dude leaps up, grabs Andor's uniform. He's like, you think this is funny? And then Andor's like, listen, he's like, there's no manual, okay? Rika's asked if she can fly it. She says she's not sure because everything's new. And Gertis is like, he's like, he can fly it. The doctor in the Krennic's meeting, at the Imperial meeting, says that their withdrawal of calcite may render the planet unstable because it's gouge mining. So there would be stress on a planet's core. Krennic says that there's a risk of total collapse. Then Admiral Daysar says that there are 9 cities, 800,000 Gormans. Krennic says that relocation would be ideal, but they need to plan for alternatives. And in Partagaz asks Gorman, or says that Gorman is neither obscure nor without political power, so they won't go quietly. And Krennic's like, which is exactly why you're here, because he needs them to come up with some idea. Back in the jungle planet, that's where Andor is. I'm just going to call it jungle planet. The group's talking about the tie. One says Rika can fly it. Gertis says that that's not what she's saying. And Rika says that it's confusing. The other guy says that the Andor, will just have to teach her. And Gertis is like, why would he do that? The other guy's like, if he doesn't, they'll kill him. But if they kill him, then they can't fly it. So basically, what wasn't fully clear is they're trapped on this planet. They have a ship, but it's like, I guess it's damaged. They want to get off, so they're hoping that they could use the tie to fly off. Andor, he's off a little ways while they're talking, but he can hear them. He's looking at the tie. The dude with the gun watching him says that, he's like, you'll never make it, because he can tell Andor's thinking about running there. Andor's like, alone, no, but he's like, the two of us, we could be gone by now. So he's trying to convince him to turn on the others, and dude's like, I don't need an excuse to hit you. So, Andor says he gets it. He's like, 2 days, no food, makes everyone cranky. And a dude brings a blaster up to his face. He's like, how did you know how long we've been here? Then Andor's like, you were not here 3 days ago when I left. The others say that they still have to figure out who goes and who stays because they're not all going to fit in there. The complaining guy says that they'll make trips. The other's like, well, who gets to go first? And the other's like, there it is. He's like, that's the real problem, lack of trust. And then one guy's like, says that Gertis' brother dumped them out there and just ran away. He's like, you want to talk about trust? So as these people are arguing, the question I hear, I'm like, are we supposed to care about these people? Like, who are they? And I think we kind of get the answer at the second episode. It's like, well, what really matters here? So Gertis says that he went back for survivors, and the guy's like, no one believes that. Then Andor comes with the guard asking if they're the Maya Pay Brigade, and they get mad at the guard dude's like, you told him? And then he's like, I know Maya. And they're like, Maya's dead. They got ambushed. They lost 6 ships, 40 fighters. And then they argue again about the brother. Rika comes up and asks if he knows Maya, and Andor says that she was a customer. He's like, we've been supplying you along along the way. He's like, argue all you want, but we're part of the same rebellion. So they tell him that his friend was hostile, and Andor's like, he was on a mission. We're stealing an Imperial test ship. And Gertis, he's like, for who? He's like, who are you with? Andor's like, I'm not telling you that. And the other guy's like, we told you. And they told him information. And Andor's like, yeah, well, you should be more careful. So one guy gets mad, calls him a sobbing jackpad. So he's like, he's about to shoot him, but then the other stops him. So it's like, you can't shoot him because he's the only one that can fly the ship. Krennic continues saying that the suppression of Gorman is not a decision taken lightly. They've been talking about this. There are a couple dudes from the Ministry of Enlightenment there. They talk about the Gore always putting themselves first. With the right idea planted in the right market, they can now weaponize galactic opinion. So they go on and on. Then Krennic cuts them off, saying that they get the idea. Andor says that they're losing daylight, so there must be food and water out there. But one person mentions that there's beasts out there, and there's other ones like shushes him. Andor's like, what kind of beasts? And one guy says that, he's like, well, you'll hear them tonight. So there are some people inside the Tide are arguing about whether they trust Andor, should they let him fly, some of them out. Rika's still trying to figure out the controls, and because she has no idea what's going on there. Andor, then he's like, who's really in charge here? And then three other have to duck because there's laser fire erupts from the tie. He's like, it's harder than it looks. Rika's like trying to figure things out, and she hit the wrong button. At the Imperial meeting, I guess they're on a break, they're like eating. One dude says that they should put out a plague or a natural disaster to deal with the Gore. The guy says they've actually gamed that out. It gets unpredictable very quickly. Krennic goes up to Dedra, who's like standing by a window. He says that she's awfully quiet. And she's like, it's a lot to take in. He says that he heard that she learns quickly. And she's like, I'd like to know what I'm talking about. And then Krennic's like, you'll hear at my request. He's like, I don't get to Coruscant much these days, but I do keep my ear to the ground. He's like, you're not inspired by the anti-Gorman whispering campaign? And she's like, I'm still forming an opinion. And then Krennic's like, word of advice. You think you're hard to read? You need to get over that. Now you have a plan already. You've had it when they finish speaking. I want your assessment. Because, she's acting like she doesn't know, but he's like, I know you figured something out. So she's like, pause, and she's like, propaganda will only get you so far. You need a radical insurgency that you can count on. And he's like, count on for what? And she's like, you need Gorman rebels that you can depend on to do the wrong thing. Director. And then she like walks away. Brasso drives up to this little place. BT EMO says he was waiting for Andor, and Brasso's like, he'll be here soon. So he fills in Bix, Willman, and Talia about the big ship. He's like, it's an Imperial supply census, so they're doing an audit, like a spot check. They want to know what they've got and where it's coming from. Bix's like, well, if they're checking visas, then they have a problem. So Talia says that, they won't let anything happen to her. Willman goes and to have, to listen for any word from Cassian. Luthen talks to Clea and asks if there's been anything from Porco. She says that she's been scrubbing the frequencies all day. Luthen says that they know Cassian got off CNR. They know Porco was waiting, and she says that she's looking for a drink, and so they have to hope for the best. Inside the party, Luthen, he's like fishing for information, trying to talk to people. Tay talks to Mon Mothma, so Tay's like her old friend. I think he was like an ex-boyfriend, they're old friends. He said, he was going to help out financially also. So he says that, some business of his has gone south recently, so he's hoping to stay a weekend, but we'll see, he might have to leave. She's like, well, what about your wife? And he's like, oh, we're living apart at the moment. But he says he wants to talk to her about the foundation that I guess he helped set up for her, like her financial stuff. She glances around, she's like, is there a problem? He's like, oh, not like that. And then this lady interrupts, says that she's like, they've had their first fight. So like, Lita's run off. So Mon goes to look, finds Lita crying, and she's like, he's a child. He won't hold my hand. I keep trying, and he keeps pushing me away. And she's like, sorry, so terribly sorry, because she didn't want to do this to her daughter, but she had to. It's night on a jungle planet. They're arguing. One says it's been 2 days. Another says that, but they're talking about the brother. So he could have been captured. Another says he could have just run away. Then they're arguing over who's in charge now. So one guy, Crab, he raises blaster because he's feeling insulted. He's like, call me a liar again. And Rika, the lady who's gonna hope maybe pilot, she's like, "You're not even good at that." And then he shoots her, and his other guy shoots him, and Andor decides to run even though he's cuffed behind his back. He knocks the guy down as he's running. He gets tackled, and they tell him to stay down. There's like laser firing all over the place, and then the two guys like pick up Andor, they're kind of dragging him away, and that's the end of the first episode. Second episode, so I think it's Sagrona Tima. So it's raining on a jungle planet. Someone's like crawling through shrubs, whatever. We see some people inside the tie. The person crawling is Nazi, looking for something. Someone yells, asking, is like, what did they do with Rika's body? So on the tie, they're confused. They can't find her either. So like it's a trap. So then they're like, they're messing with us. So then the person crawling, or something, maybe it's, I can't remember if it's a different person, they find a boot, but it turns out it's a severed limb. So they like freak out and get up. Shooting starts. Nazi says that he found Rita's goggles. That's all there was. He's like, there's no body. It's just a boot. Someone's like, and you left it out there? And then, so maybe if Nazi was a woman, I don't remember. She said that she left it there because there's still a foot inside the boot. So then we see Dedra, she's talking with Major Partagaz, and he says that, before they go in, it's like, you don't want the Gorman project. And she said that she thought about it, all night, and she doesn't want it. And then he asked if Krennic offered her a job, and she's like, that he did. So Partagaz is like, well, when it's done, we're in it. And she's like, well, what about access? She's like, I can't do both. And he's like, that she spent 2 years, so access is, she's trying to find Andor. I think that's like his code name or whatever. So he's like, she spent 2 years on that and she has nothing. It's like, next time catch him first. So he says that the Gorman will be hers to run as she wishes. She'll answer only to Krennic. He's got no time for anything but results. The Gorman is a gift. So he's like, take it and then win it. So at the wedding prep place, Luthen talks to Clea. She says there's still no word from, Cassian. She knows that they shouldn't send a broadcast from here, but she tried to reach out to Bix and she never got through. The planet's been shut down. Temporary reception outage or for Imperial inspection because of the census that's happening. And then Luthen's like, what kind of inspection? And Clea's like, well, wouldn't that be nice to know? She's like, I need to be at the gallery. She's like, I can't help anyone from here. She's like, I need serious comms. And Luthen's like, I can't leave. You'd have to get a ride. And she's like, I found one. And we see Perrin. So Perrin is Mon Mothma's husband, whatever. He's like kind of like watching them talk. Mon comes in. They talk like with some wedding stuff. Then he says last night was successful, but then he's like, you should tell your boyfriend to back off the nog. And she's like, and who's my boyfriend? He's like, oh, what have you done? Thrown him over? And she chuckles. She's like, I don't know who we're talking about. He's like, Tay Kolma. Is he not your lover? And Mon's like, I haven't heard that nonsense in a while. And Perrin's like, his wife has run off, so the field is clear. He's all yours now. And she's like, stop. And he's like, well, maybe you've all dropped him. Well, that would explain a great deal. And she's like what? He's like, it's always best to let them down gently, or so I've been told. Mon's like, we have a long day, Perrin. And he's like, well, Tay's had a bit too much first night punch. He had to be taken home. I mean, it's a full-on, Chandy wedding. He grew up 4 valleys away. He should know better. Pace yourself or pay the price. He's like, he was always weak. So obviously he's just like jealous of him because he's just nitpicking or picking him, tearing him down. On the farm planet, they got a supply delivery. This dude comes up to Brasso, Bix, and Willem and says that a friend thinks that they'll finish inspecting up there today, like where he's at. So then where they go next should tell them what direction they're moving in. And Bix is like, how many are there? And he's like, on the ground, he counted like 40, but his friend counted 40, but we don't know what they have in the air. And Bix is like, well, what if they come this way? And he's like, look, they need the grain. They know that they need help and not everyone is legal. So how hard they look, what they do, like it's been 10 years since the last audit, nobody's happy. So Brasso says Talia thinks that they'll let them slide. Big's like, we can't count on that. And then the kid asks, he's like, what if they ask where they came from? Then the dude's like, I wouldn't mention Ferrex. And Bix is like, well, what if we stay ahead of them? And the dude's like, he's like, I'd be careful. They caught someone running at 500. And Bix, she's like nervous, obviously. So, this isn't good that the census is happening now. On the jungle planet, on the tie, they look at like what food they had left, and one complains it's a bit moldy. Andor complains that it's weird how it's gotten quiet over there. It's like, he's always trying to start something, like, what are they doing? At the Bureau standards, Cyril Karn, he talks to this new guy. So Cyril's like he was also obsessed with trying to find Andor. And he was like the nerdy guy that was like lived with his mom. I feel like he had something. He like talked down to Dedra. I think he was like kind of her superior, but then she's obviously been promoted and blown him away. So Cyril's like talking to this new guy. He says he's like, I used to be in your position. And he's like, then I came across some discrepancies. I did my work, but I made time to dig deeper and eventually uncovered a cabal of corrupt purchasing agents who were stealing Imperial supplies in 4 sectors. And he's like staring at him like a freak. And then like kind of like he's really trying to intimidate the guy. He's like nervous. He's a little nerdy guy. And Cyril's like, there's a future here for those who dare. And yet he's the guy that's still living with his mom, and Dedra's got like how many promotions since? Willman he sits in the tall field. He's talking with Bila, the girl. I guess it's his girlfriend. Then they hear something. There's a couple hover cars that are coming, and there's like a big laser cannon mounted on it. So obviously they're Imperials. Then Kellen, the dude who talked to Brasso the other day, he greets them because he has like this little grain shop or something like that. They ask if he takes credits. He's like, yeah, of course. And then the guy's like, yeah, any cold drinks? And he's like, oh, over there in that box or something like that. Brasso's in there too, I guess, shopping. The store guy is like, Kellen, he asks where they're coming from. They say that they just finished 500. And Kellen's like, it's like, oh, you're working fast. He's like, where to next? And the second soldier is like, it's like, I don't know. He's like, you'd have to ask the lieutenant. And Kellen's like, oh, I haven't met him yet. And the third soldier's like you will. He's checking out the storage. So this dude, Kroll, he kind of catches Bix off guard because she's like out alone at like one of the silos, whatever. So he says hello, and she's like, oh, I'm just, she's just fixing this machine, working on something, whatever. And then Kroll asks if she's seen the new silos, and she's like, I have. And she's like, we were based in the 600 block a few months ago. And he whispers, he's like, I'm not sure they're worth the cost. So she like chuckles nervously, and he's like, I guess we'll know after this next harvest. And then he just keeps kind of lingering. It's like, okay, what are you doing? He like takes a deep breath. He's like, it's so quiet out here. He talks about the city, I forget what it's called. And he said that, it's changed. He's like, have you been? He's like, we had a decent meal last night. It's not that far. It's beautiful right over the fields. He's like, I'm only here a couple more days. Maybe you'd like to join me. So, remember, the Bix is Adria Arjona. Arjona, is that how you say it? So, obviously he's like ooh la la type of thing. So she turns, she's like, I'm not sure my husband would approve. He's like, He's like, sorry to hear that. Is he here? So it's like, why are you asking if she's there? And she's like, he's off planet for a few days. And then Kroll is like, is he a mechanic as well? She's like, a very good one. And he's like, does he worry about you? And she's like, in what way? He's like, we've just shut down all the comms. It's not up to me, it's policy. We freeze the zone during an audit. It's supposed to stop things sneaking away while we're doing all our counting. She's like, that's good to know. And then he kind of takes a step closer, but then Brazo calls out, he's like, Zala. So I don't know, I think he's calling Bix Zala, like that's her fake name. He's like, I'm done, you ready? And Kroll's like, what's your counsel? And Bix says that they're based in 207. Brasso says that they move around and go where there's a need. And then to Bix, Kroll's like, well, nice to meet you. And she like smiles. He's like, see you along the way. And then he walks off, and she sighs in relief. The wedding guests, they're hiking along this mountainside. I guess they're supposed to go to top. Kids are going to sing. They're supposed to like some whole thing. She's talking to her cousin Belle. She asks Mon if Lita is happy. And, is this what she really wants? On the jungle planet, those in the old ship, they're with Andor. They sent someone out, Plug. The one guy says that, he should be back by now. Then Plug runs back. He's like, don't shoot. He says, he's like, we should be, they're like, oh, we were getting worried. He's like, you should be worried. And we see the others, they have like a bunch of vines, whatever, tied to the tie, and they're like pulling it. So Plug says that they're trying to turn it around, get the guns pointed at them. So apparently they've moved it a few centimeters, so they're like maybe like 50 centimeters an hour or something like that. And Andor says that if they're lucky, they'll turn it like 5 meters by midnight, and then they'll be close. The others are like pulling, and then there's like laser fire, and so they duck and they start kind of shooting back. Then this part was I kind of got confused. So Dedra's like dressed. She's like wearing like slacks and like a blouse. It was kind of like a dressy blouse, like sort of a work blouse, whatever. And her hair is down. It's like straight. She's like in this apartment building. She's like listening to opera music, but then she like, turns it off. Cyril comes in with like some supplies, and he like asks her, or she asks like what's going on, and it's like, wait, what? I thought they didn't like each other or whatever. But they agree. He ended up saving her in the last season or something like that. There was like a riot, and so I don't think they're together. That would be really weird. But maybe they're working together because they want to find Axis. They want to find Andor. So there's another pre-wedding gathering. Mon finds Tay. Luther's like watching them talk, like because they go to like kind of like a quiet corner. Tay's talking about business. He mentions the foundation is up and running, so Mon's financial blemishes have been smoothed over, and he kind of says again, things aren't going too well for him. And she's like, I had no idea. And he says, well, rebel activities have soured my investments. And then he's like, you can see how I might feel undervalued. So what is he exactly saying here? He's helping her financially, and now he's paying the price for it. And so he wants to make sure he's appreciated. So obviously he wants something in return. I thought these two were gonna like get together, but I'm not so sure now. And so Mon's like, absolutely. She's like, how I wish you'd made this clear sooner. Kellen says that the soldiers are moving tomorrow. Bix asks where are they headed, and he says it looks like they're going to 300 next, but there's no guarantee. Brasso suggests that they just hide behind 500, but Kellen says that people that have been arrested have been the ones running, so they want to know, the Imperials want to know who's living there. Clea returns to the antique shop. She goes to her communication system. She powers it up, so that's where she can get into. She's like, it's almost like she's back in her comfort zone. Luthen talks to Mon about Tay, about how he's kind of been like following her all night. She says that they're supposed to talk after the wedding to set things right. And she says that he made some bad investments and sees like, and then when you look at like all the stuff that they're doing, there's this super rich, whatever estate. So she insists that they'll find a number that will satisfy Tay. So like they're gonna pay him off or something like that, pay him back. Luthen asks if there's any chance he'd go to Skolden, and she's like, no, he would never do that. So then everyone's cheering Perrin. He's about to give a toast about stuff. Back to the jungle planet, two sides are yelling and arguing like across the way, so then they're like, what's the plan? And one side's like, I'm dropping a challenge. Bix goes out, she stares at the night sky, she just doesn't know what to do. The bickering sides decide to go out and talk, so they make Andor stay inside. There's like one guy holding a gun to him or whatever. So then they're standing out in the field like across from each other. They count to 3 and make this big show of like placing their blasters on the ground. So then one says, 5 hands, Rossi rules. And Andor's like, what does that mean? And the guys with him says it's total submission. So they each choose their second. So when they do it, it's almost like rock, paper, scissors. And as they go, Andor's like kind of pushing there's like a toolbox by his foot. He's like pushing it. He manages to open this drawer, pulls out a blaster, tells the guard to drop his weapon, and then I guess he ties him up. So he sneaks out. They've done 2 rounds of this game, and then they hear like a beast roar. One beast pushes through the bush, knocks at least one over. I don't know if it was knocked one over or 2. Andor's running like on the outskirts of the group, like towards the tie. The guard guy who was tied up, he manages to he's still tied up, but he got the gag out of his mouth. He's running out there. He's like, he's getting away. And then there's one guard in the tie. Andor shoots him, like pulls him out. They start shooting at the ship. He's in the pilot seat. He lifts off, flies away. So now my point is, there was a point of this whole plot line. I spent all this time going over this because I've only seen these 2 episodes, and from this point, if he's leaving his planet, do we care about these characters? Are we ever going to see them again? Are we ever going to find out if they get off the planet? Do we even care if they get off the planet? I mean, is there any value, any importance to them? I really don't know. And with the number of episodes that we have, because that's the nice thing about this show is there is a lot of episodes, because the first season, both seasons are 12 episodes long, which is kind of crazy, but at 12 episodes long, they could probably trim some things down. And so we basically 2 episodes of Andor being trapped on this planet. Does this really matter? The answer is, I don't know. So we'll have to wait and see. But so like I said, it's very well made, very well done, but I just feel like it's just so super technical that makes it feel more real and detailed. But oh my goodness, so I don't know. So now I'm 1 episode down. Next week, as you listen to this, or this week, I guess I should say, there's gonna be 3 more. So that makes me 4 episodes down. Do I still do 2 and just get behind? Or at some point, do I stop? I don't know. We'll see. You let me know. All right, the first movie featured. So I said I wasn't gonna watch it. I ended up seeing The Amateur. It was a kind of last minute thing. My wife and sister-in-law, they were going to go to a movie. They're like, what should we see? And I was like, well, they're Sinners, but I didn't think, I wasn't sure if they'd like that or what. So anyways, we ended up going to see The Amateur. And so Rotten Tomatoes, I mentioned this last week. I don't know if it's changed at all. Rotten Tomatoes is 61%. Popcorn meters at 88%. So that's not bad. So Rami Malek, Laurence Fishburne, Rachel Brosnahan, Lois Lane, she's in it also. And Katriana Balfe from, what's it called? Outlander. I haven't watched Outlander since like season 5 or something like that. My wife she's still watching. I'm not watching. I fell behind, and I'm like, oh, that's okay. So she's a great actress, even though I'm not watching the show anymore. And I think she's going to be in a Formula One with Brad Pitt also. What is this movie about? It's here's the thing. It was a fine movie. It was good. It was decent. Rami Malek, he's a good actor. There's something about him sometimes that I don't know. It kind of throws me off a bit. I mean, he was great in Bohemian Rhapsody. I love that movie. That's such a good movie. I mean, he did a great Freddie Mercury. I'm trying to think what else he was in. I know he was in Mr. Robot, and here's my confession. I'm sure I've mentioned it back in the Comic Find days. I have never watched Mr. Robot. I don't know why. I think because it was like a USA show, and so when it came on, I totally missed it. I missed any new whatever, and because as I've stated long ago, I stated before, back then it's similar to now, where I'm only really the stuff that I really watch is stuff that I cover on a podcast. So back in the Comic Vine days, like if it wasn't comic book or superhero related, I didn't really have time to watch it because, I was just spread so thin, even though I was doing that full time, and you would think I'd have more time. So somehow when Mr. Robot started, I didn't know anything about it. And I don't even really remember. I don't even know what the plot is. Right now, I don't even know how many seasons there are. All I know is from what I recall, the tiny bit seeing, I was like, this looks like it could be like a cool show. And I was like, what is it? Is he a robot? Is he like Mr. Roboto, like Sticks? I was like, Domo Arigato. Like, what is going on? What is this show? I've always wanted to watch it, and it's always like, someday I will watch it. So maybe when I retire, I will watch it. And I still haven't watched it. I don't know if it's even available anywhere. I feel like this is something that like I should probably try to buy it on Blu-ray before you can't find it. I'm just really curious. And maybe it's not that good, but I feel like it is. So I don't know. So anyways, Rami Malek, he's a good actor. And he's good in this. He does a good performance. Laurence Fishburne is, he's always good. Even since, going back to the Cowboy Larry days on Pee-wee's Playhouse. What is this movie about? It's basically a revenge movie. Rami Malek, he's a cryptographer at the CIA, So he does like the decryption stuff and whatever analysis, and he works in like the sub basement, like I think it's like 5 levels down. And his wife, I don't know, I think she might have been like a photojournalist or something like that, because she had a camera. She takes pictures when she leaves, because she goes on a trip to London. She has like a conference or something like that. She tries getting him to go, but it seems like he's like not into travel. He's like, he's got to work, or I don't know what it was. And what ends up happening is she ends up getting killed in London, and he wants, he's basically torn apart. I mean, it's horrific. And, because they're like so in love, and, he's blaming himself because he didn't go, but it's like, he wouldn't have even been there. He wouldn't have been at the conference most likely. So, what could he have done? And, he talks to like some people at the CIA, and they're like, yeah, we got it. We're taking care of it. Whatever. Don't worry about it. Take some time off and stuff like this. He ends up like analyzing all this stuff and like footage and street footage and everything, and the 3D models and renders, and takes out, and he kind of figures out pretty much who they all the, I forget if there's 4 people. He figures out who they are, and they're like, yeah, we know. And he's like, you know all this and you're not doing anything? But I mean, the point is, that's like impressive that he was able to figure that out on his own, which who knows how many other people it took to do that. But they're like, there's certain way things are handled and certain things, and you got to whatever. There's protocol, and and they're like, we don't just want like these ones. They need like the bigger fish. They need to know like who they're working for, or whatever. And it's not just about fortunately there was one hostage. It was killed, his wife. But they're after like the bigger picture type of thing, and he's just he can't handle that. And then what it comes down to is he's been talking to this source, and he doesn't know who it is. He's trying to figure out. He keeps trying to guess. I think he thinks it's like a Russian defector in, what do you say, like not Budapest, somewhere. And they're like, nope. And it's like computer voice, so you can't even tell whatever. So he got a bunch of like encrypted files, and he finally, and there was like a lot of discrepancies with like some drone bombings, and the news report said it was a suicide bomber. So he's got kind of, it looks like there's some dirt on the CIA. So he kind of tries like blackmailing them. He's like, we need to get these people, and then he's kind of like, I want you to teach me, to train me how to kill, how to get them. And they're like, you're not a killer, he's just this analyst. So then finally, because he said that he has like a drop bot, or like a kill, what is it, kill switch, dead switch, whatever, what do you call it? So he's like, if he doesn't log in like every 5 hours, and it's going to go live and go to all these different reporters and stuff like that. So they kind of have to do what he says. They have to like humor him. So they send them to Laurence Fishburne, and you see this in the trailer. Laurence Fishburne, goes through all this stuff, tries to help him. He's like, you're not a killer. But because of his skills, can he do other things? So that's really what the movie's about, is him trying to track down, because he has an idea, like I think he's able to figure out like where one of them is, but he has no idea where they're at. And when they're like, if you go after one, they're going to alert the others. The other ones are going to go into hiding, and you're never going to get them all. So it's like, you need to really think about this. So he's trying to formulate ideas and plans, and what he can do. But they're just meanwhile they're just trying to figure out, does he really have like a, what do you call it? Not a dead. Does he really have something rigged where the information is going to leak and stuff like that? And then he ends up slipping through their fingers and going out there and using some of the assets that they prepped for him, and he's like on his own trying to find these people, but he's not skilled for it. So that's the premise of the movie. That's why he's an amateur, because he's not a trained hunter, but he's obviously going to be able to hold his own for a while. So it's like I said, it's pretty interesting, and there's just some cool moments. John Bernthal is actually in this first, and it was weird because he had longer hair. At first I was like, oh, John, the Punisher's in this, and I was like, wait, that's not him. And I was like, is it him? And no, I was like, wow, it looks just like him, but it's not him. It is him. So it was like so bizarre for me. But yeah, so that's basically what the movie is. What's going to happen, and you'll have to watch and find out. So yeah, as I said, as I kind of predicted, whatever, it's not an amazing, mind-boggling movie, but it is entertaining. It is, it's worth watching if you're into this type of thing. My wife and sister-in-law, they enjoyed it. So it's fun. It's entertaining. It's nothing extraordinary. But what do you go to movies for? You go to movies to be entertained, and that's what this does. And it is horrific, the stuff that happens, and there are some cool moments because it's not your typical movie. It's not like he's not James Bond. He's not Henry Cavill or Daniel Craig. He's not like this unstoppable agent. So it's like a twist on the spy hunter revenge whatever movies. So it's worth watching. Do you need to see in a theater? That's up to you. Obviously there are some things that you can appreciate on the big screen. It's some of the locations and things that happen, but it's not something you need to see. Just if you're into any of the actors and the premise and you want just to be entertained, I would say that. So that is The Amateur in theaters. Check it out or wait till it's available somewhere else. So I enjoyed it. Okay, and now the main movie feature is Until Dawn. Okay, I'm just going to start off. I don't really know how I feel about this movie. And I'm going to be perfectly honest. At one point, I dozed off a tiny bit. But I don't think I missed that much because I think I missed like the third night. Because, there's multiple nights where they keep dying and then reliving stuff. So I just missed a tiny bit. And has absolutely nothing to do with the movie. I'm not saying the movie was boring or anything like that. I did not get a good night's sleep the night before. And it's so weird when it happens sometimes because, the seats are super comfortable at my theater. I don't lean all the way back because of that. But there's a lot of times where you just get, it's a little chilly, you get comfortable, and then it's just like, it's dark. But as I'm watching this, I'm like, okay, I'm a little tired or whatever. Then all of a sudden, like, bam! It's like gone. It's like, what happened? Then you usually get my second wind. Anyways, so Until Dawn. As I watch this, okay, let's start with the basics or whatever. As of now, as I record this, it went up actually. Okay, when I just hit refresh, and maybe it'll change. It'll probably be different from when you watch this, and maybe over just the rest of this weekend or whatever. It was at a 49% Rotten Tomato critics. Now it's at a 51%. So it's got a little better. I didn't notice what the popcorn meter was. Popcorn meter is a 69%. Okay, all right, we have that. Now, before I watched this, I wasn't sure if there's any Rotten Tomato scores or not. And sometimes I'll look at them just out of curiosity, which I try not to do that because I don't want to be influenced by what other people think. But sometimes I am curious, like, is this movie going to be any good or not? And again, reviews are totally subjective. I do not read reviews because, the reviews are people's opinions. And I always thought it was like ridiculous when the way GameSpot wanted movie reviews, I felt it was like too much. I mean, I can write, but it's not just about that. It's obviously, and I will say to GameSpot's credit, they take it very seriously, which I thought was kind of interesting that the movie reviews were like elevated compared to like our articles, and maybe the articles are just faster, boom, 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 get the news out type of thing. But with the movie reviews, it was like, this is serious business. And it's like, okay, when I would write these reviews for GameSpot, I don't remember how many I did, there's a lot of people were reading and, giving some input on that. So let's say I get it. Not my favorite process or whatever, because sometimes things change, and there's me sometimes like maybe you should say this or use this word instead. And there's a couple times like I don't really use that word, but whatever you want that word, I'm fine with that, and whatever there's a whole thing. But I feel like in my opinion, like movie reviews, and this is how, when I talk about these movies here, and on a podcast, obviously easier because it's just talking. I don't have to worry about having it be perfect, because this is a little more relaxed. And when I think about movie reviews, especially for the types of movies that I'm talking about, the type of movies that I was reviewing on GameSpot, whatever, these are not high fine art. These are popcorn movies for the most part. These are action movies. These are just visual things, and these are just fun and exciting. And yeah, a lot of times there's stories and it's good acting. There's all these levels and stuff like that. But I feel like what it comes down to, for me, what I care about, and there's been times I've looked at like IGN reviews just to see the score or just to see the good and the bad. That's all I want. I don't want to read paragraph after paragraph after paragraph. I'm sorry, whoever wrote this, all the time. I know that this is a lot. That you have to think things out and make sure things flow and do all this stuff. But it's like for me personally, that's not what I want. I just want to see boom, 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 and I feel like a lot of people want that too, because when I think like on Comic Vine or maybe even on GameSpot, when we did reviews, did we do scores on GameSpot reviews? I feel like we didn't. And because me, it's like, I just want to talk about it. I don't want to attach like a number or a star or something like that, because I felt like then that's all people look at. And that's all I would look at. So, that's what I was saying. I don't want to just do that. And so for me now, really, when I'm reviewing something for myself, I'm mainly looking was it enjoyable or not? Was it interesting? Did it hold my interest, or was it boring, or was I, I want to look at my phone, but I can't because I'm in a theater and that would be rude, and I'm not one of those people. I don't need to know like all the intricacies, like for me, like one thing, like lighting is a huge thing. I'm always fascinated with that, like how a scene is lit and the shadows, and how I'm so fascinated by that. But I don't feel like I don't really mention that often, where there could be some cool lighting or just a cinematography or just the filters or whatever. There's a lot of stuff like that. Is like if I was writing a review, I'd talk about that. What am I getting at here? So with I don't even know why I'm going down this route. With Until Dawn, let's just shift to that. So whatever, we have all this stuff. Until Dawn. Okay, here's where I was going with it. I just realized that. See, this is why when you write review, you have people helping editing to keep it on track, because I just ramble. Before I watched the movie, I saw the trailer. I watched the trailer once, and I don't know if it was like a teaser or first, whatever it was. And I'm like, okay, I don't know any of these actors, which, that doesn't mean anything, because I don't know everything about anyone. They could have a full history or whatever, or cast or resume. I hope so. But when I look at this, okay, I don't really recognize, there's no one there, which is fine, because sometimes that could be distracting. But then when I looked at, I was like, okay, this could be an interesting movie. And I was kind of curious. I was like, how many people are going to actually care about this movie? I was interested in this from the video game. While admittedly, I'm not a big gamer, and I will never pretend to try to be like a big gamer or anything like that. I've always been clear, I just don't have the time to devote to play these games, because I'm spinning too many plates. When I was doing Comic Vine, it was like reading and then all writing and just like planning, prepping, stuff like that. So I didn't have time to play. And even now, while I'm teaching and prepping all my teaching, writing lesson plans, creating worksheets, writing tests, grading, all this stuff, and then reading comics, watching these shows, I don't have a lot of extra free time. So that's why, like, whenever I watch something, I tend to watch stuff that I'm going to talk about on the podcast. That's why I'm behind on Reacher. That's why I'm halfway through season 2, and so forth. So I played some of the game, and what drew me to the game, one, I like horror stuff, so obviously that is a draw. But then the other thing was Brett Dalton's involvement with the game, and I loved Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and luckily I got to interview Brett Dalton a few times in person, on the phone a couple times, at least twice. So he's a super cool guy. I mean, so down to earth, and he's hilarious. I mean, he's one of my favorite people to interview. So when he was in a game, I was like, that's awesome. And the character in the game kind of looked like him and everything like that. So I thought this was really cool. But the game, it's one of those games where it's like it kind of makes you feel miserable because you have to make some hard choices. And I remember there's one with the bear trap. I don't remember exactly what it was because feels like it was so long ago. And when there's like you had to make a choice, it's like, okay, do you put your arm through the bear trap or not? And I was like, I don't want to do that. And what I was thinking is like, if I do that, that's going to damage the character in the game. Is this going to affect the rest of the gameplay where your arm is like gnarled or maybe even chopped off? Is it going to sever the arm? It's like, you can't have that. There was another scene, and I don't think this is a spoiler, because the different things you do in the game kind of lead you down different paths, because so there's a part where so I forget who I was some dude, you and this girl, because you're with a bunch of friends in this snowy cabin, like up in a mountain, and you have to, there's like a big, huge, like buzzsaw, like circular, like big tree cutting saw, and you have to decide, cut me, save her, I'm going to do the heroic thing, chop me in half, spare her life. Or do you say, screw that, kill her, I want to live for tomorrow and have a donut or whatever. And I remember, I don't remember the choice I made. I think I stupidly was like, okay, if I say kill me, they're not going to really, there's something's going to happen. I don't remember what I did. Or I don't know if I was able to save it and try both of them. I don't know if you were able to do that. But you got to make these hard choices and stuff like that. But the thing is, you could die. And now with this movie, the thing is, these people go to this place, and when they die, they come back. Somehow the night resets. So they're like, what is going on here? One of the cool things about the movie and the game is they got Peter Stormare, who was like the dude in the game, that like, the freaky dude. Like, so what are you talking about? Like, doctor, like you're up to something. So they got him in here. Now, the movie is different from the game. So I mentioned in the game you're like up on this snowy mountain. In the movie we have these, I think it's 5 people, right? And one of the girl, her sister's been missing for a year, and so they're really kind of bummed. They've been kind of like searching and stuff like that, and they're kind of like at the end, like maybe we're never going to find her type of thing. But the last thing is, the last video they got from her was in this town, because she's like outside this like gas station convenience store or whatever like that. They're out there, and like one of the girls thinks she's kind of psychic. She's had some psychic energies or whatever, and the friends kind of like, yeah, maybe, whatever, and they're kind of humor her. So, but the girl goes in the store, and then she's like, she goes, she buys a coffee or something like that, and then she's about to leave, and she's like, were you working here last year? And he's like, and the year before that, and before that. Then she's like, holds out her phone with the videos, or it was like a different picture. She's like, does she look familiar? And he's like, oh, she's pretty. She looks like you, or something like that. And then I think she says that she was missing, and he's like, there's a lot of people gone missing around here. And she's like, really? And then he's like, you might want to check. What was it called? The something Valley or something like that. She's like, okay, maybe there's something here. So she tells her friends. They go driving, and this other girl that's with them, she has this new boyfriend. And now the thing is, he's a psych major, so he's kind of a jerk about a lot of stuff, because he thinks whatever. So he's driving I think it's like I don't know if it's like a Jeep SUV or whatever. And it's like horrible, like rain. It's like you can't see anything. And he's like, I'm going to turn around. And they're like, you can't turn around. He's like, we've already turned around, and we're going back and forth, and they don't know where they're going. And then all of a sudden, the rain stops. But then you look behind him. It's still, there's like a little, like it's still raining. It's like freaky, because there's like a wall of rain, and then it just stops next. And there's like this house there. So they're like, what's going on? They're like, well, maybe we should go here, and there's like a welcome center there. At first I was like, is this like a bed and breakfast? They go in there, it's a welcome center. They go in there, and there's like no one there. It's like the place is open. And like one of them like notices that there's like this weird picture with like an hourglass on the wall, and then they're trying to figure out like what's going on here. Someone notices she's like signs, like there's a guest list. She's like, oh, I'm going to sign my name, and she looks on a previous page. There's a sister's name, and again, and again, and again, and again, and again, and as it's right, it's like it's kind of getting messier. It's like what is happening here? So that's kind of freaky. A couple of people like, let's go downstairs in the basement. Oh, darn, the lights at the stairs don't work. I'm like, are you crazy? They go down there, and then someone's like, why are there windows in the basement? Which is kind of weird. And then the boyfriend, I feel like I'm spoiling too much, but there's like so much. The boyfriend in the room, there's like a bunch of missing pictures on the wall. So he like calls, he's, and first it's kind of bothered me because he's just like, he's pulling down all these like flyers and stuff on this bulletin board. And it's like, you're ripping all these flyers. I mean, I guess you can just like put the pin back in, but it's like, it seems kind of rude just to be tearing these down. And there's like more and more missing, more and more. And then there's one of the sister up there too. It's like, who are all these people? So he calls the others to look, and there's like no information, no names, no numbers. It's like, what is the point of this? So they're trying to figure out. And then, they split up again, and then like someone gets killed. I won't say anything more. They get like chopped in half, I think. And they're like freaking out, and there's like that. And then eventually, they like wake up or not wake up, but they're all alive again. They're like back, and they're like freaking out. They're like, because they remember everything. They felt the deaths, and they're like, all like, did that? They're like checking with each other if that all happened, and they're like freaking out. So and then because one person like, wait, did someone move the hourglass? Because they, the girl that noticed it saw it was like flipped. So obviously there's something going on here, and there's more going on. And then they kind of figure out, oh, the guy at the gas station was Peter Stormare, because they find like an ID with his name on there, his picture. So there's like something going on. Oh, and in the woods, there's like other things out there. And so there's something with this place. What is going on? Why are they able to die and come back? And that's kind of where the movie either shines or falters with this. Because when we have these, we get to have all these different deaths, but the kind of, I don't want to say neat thing, but kind of the good thing is, you can kill these characters, but they're going to come back. So you can, it's a little disjointed in a way, because it's not like Groundhog Day. It's not like the same thing over and over again, because like things kind of veer off a little bit, and then they're like, oh, maybe we're not going to do that. We're going to stay here. But then no, something's still going to come after him or cause something. Because then there's like someone in a mask that's also killing people. It's like, who's this person? What's happening? It almost feels a little disjointed. Like, let's just do like, oh, here's a death, here's a death, here's a death. I mean, it's like that. But then it's also kind of neat in a way that how, you got this, what is happening. And when they come back, it's like, it's taking a toll on them. It's not like, oh, I don't have to worry now. I'm immortal. I'm going to die, but I'm going to just come back. Because then they become haggard, and they're like feeling it. And it's physically affecting their body. You're seeing changes in that. They find this video, and there's like more information, and they just have to figure out how can they survive until dawn, name of the movie. And it just goes from there. What is this doctor do? What's going on? So now the thing is, I'm still not sure how I feel about the movie. I think there's some neat aspects, but at some points I feel like, I don't know. And part of it is that the characters weren't overly likable. No offense to anyone, and whether it's the writing or the acting, I don't know. So, it was hard to kind of care for someone like the psych major dude was annoying. He was just like cold and hard, but whatever, he was new to the group and, doesn't have like the attachment or whatever. So it was fine and stuff, but yeah, I was just, I don't know. I almost feel like, maybe I need to watch it again at some point, so I probably will watch it sooner, rather than later. So it was an interesting movie. There are some cool deaths, but at what it comes down to, I don't know. It was just hard to really care, and then the ending, I don't know. And so what I will say, there is, could we get more? There's a possibility. There are definitely some hints. I don't know how this is going to do, like, financially. Like, would there be another game? The budget, let's see, is there a budget? Okay, the budget was $15 million. And box office prediction, it's projected to gross 8 to 10 million. So we'll have to see what happens. I mean, if it makes 8 million, that's half the budget. And, so if it has to make 3 times that, it's possible it could break even. Will it go more? I don't know. It's opened up. The other movie that came out this weekend was The Accountant 2 and the Legend of Achi, and also like Star Wars Episode 3, I guess, was re-released, came out. I don't know if my theater had that or not. But again, with the Rotten Tomato, I don't know. It's hard to say because there's like one aspect, one thing that you see at the end, which what that might imply could be kind of neat in terms of like connecting the movie and the game. Because the question is, do they exist in the same universe or not, or is it totally different? Because a lot of times you adapt something, you do your own thing. So I don't know, because I mean, from what I played of the game, I almost like that story better. So I don't know. Is it worth seeing? I would say, I mean, if you're a horror fan, and if you're a fan of the game, I would say probably. But yeah, I definitely think I would need to see it again in a clearer mindset. This was a heavy week. Just dealing with some stuff which I don't want to get into. Some stuff happened last weekend in the community, I guess you could say. I'm dealing with some stuff at home with one of the cats. So it was just like I said, I didn't get a lot of sleep the night before, so I wasn't fully clear-headed watching it. That's my excuse, but it was cool. Now comparing the amateur and until it's like it would be hard to compare the two because they're two different types of movies. But I think they're both. I enjoy going to the theater and seeing movies. So I would say of the two, which is the better movie? I mean, I don't know. Maybe the amateur might be slightly better made. I don't know, or maybe there's more substance to it. It's probably more appealing to some people. Some people don't like horror movies, but I do like horror movies, and I feel like with some of the detail of some of the scenes, you might want to see it on a bigger screen. It might be worth seeing on a bigger screen or whatever. I would say see them both, but again, some people are like, I don't want to spend all that money and everything. So there you go. So you make your own choice, but I enjoyed them both. But I would say neither one of them were super duper great. So you make your own choice. But just like the choice that you made to listen to this podcast, and I appreciate that. So that is going to be it for this 400th episode of the Random Podcast from Heck. So thank you to Andrew Loken. Andrew Loken, again, is super duper awesome. You can be super duper awesome by supporting the show at patreon.com/gmanfromheck. Any amount you can commit to will be awesome. It will be amazing. If you commit at the Rick Jones tier or higher, which is $5 a month. You go to Starbucks. Can you even buy coffee for $5? I mean, I guess regular coffee. But you get access to the Secret Podcast, which is an additional 30 minutes of podcast entertainment. I've been doing John Byrne's Fantastic Four. I keep saying, I want something else to talk about, and I don't know if I should mix it up or not, or just continue. Maybe it's time to change. I don't know. I have no idea what I'm going to do for this week. What I wanted to do was talk about the Final Destination movies, but I haven't had a chance to. I don't know if I'm going to have a chance to watch them all. So, and I don't even know if that'd be worth it. What I'm going to do, recap the movie and like my thoughts. I don't know if there's any value of that. If you think so, let me know. But yeah, we'll have to see. Maybe I need to come up with another topic. But if you can't commit to a monthly commitment, you can also help out by going to coffee.com/gmanfromheck, and you can buy me I'm losing my voice. You can buy me a virtual cup of coffee or two, and that's ko-fi.com Gman from Heck. Okay, so what is going to happen next week? Next week's movie is going to be Thunderbolts asterisk, which I am so incredibly excited for that. I didn't mention in the news, but there were early, there was like the premiere. There's early some people. There's like Twitter reactions. I don't think people have been able to review it yet. But a lot of times when they do like press screenings, or whatever, they're like, you are welcome to on social media, say how much you liked it. Hopefully you'll like it, because if you don't, well, there's still that. So I don't think like actual reviews, the embargo hasn't lifted yet. I haven't looked because I don't want to see that. I'm gonna try to resist looking, but it seems like there's been praise. People have been enjoying it, so that's gonna be awesome if that. Because I don't know for what it is. I'm so excited to see this. I'm really looking forward to it. We'll do more Star Wars Andor, more Doctor Who. What else is there? I'm totally blanking now. But Last of Us. That's it. Unless I quit the show because after what happened. So we'll see. I hope you are doing well. I hope you're taking care of yourself. And again, thank you for 400 episodes. So as long as you are listening and as long as I'm getting some support, I'm going to keep doing this. I don't mean to say this, whatever. I do spend a lot of money for this podcast, and just like I'm subscribing to some streaming services that I probably wouldn't, subscribe to. But it's so, I have access to all this different stuff. Going to the movie all the time, that's pricey. So any support you can do will be great. If you're enjoying the show, please, thank you. But yeah, I thank you for being here. This is my outlet, for me to talk about all this stuff. So I appreciate you listening to me ramble for usually 3 hours a week. It means a lot to me. So thank you and that is why I'm committed to do this every single week, even during the holidays or whatever. Even when I go to Comic-Con or whatever. I don't know if I'm going to Comic-Con. That's why I need more support. I might actually, we'll see. But I appreciate you being here for however many episodes you've been listening. And maybe you're not able to listen to every week. I appreciate at least download the episode maybe every week. That'd be great. I'd keep those numbers up. But thank you for being here. I appreciate it. So I hope you're doing well. Hope you're taking care of yourself. And I hope you remember, be good to each other.